So I'll call the meeting to order. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First up, we have a few announcements. Our Springtown meeting will be held on Monday, May 13th at 7 p.m. in the high school auditorium. Copies of the town meeting warrant are available here at the Municipal Center and at the Grafton Public Library. The warrant is also available on the town's website at www.grafton-ma.gov. There's a warrant review that's available on Grafton cable TV as well. So for those of us who want to do some prep before the meeting and do some warrant review, that's a good opportunity to avail yourself of that run through. The local election is Tuesday, May 21st. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Many boards and committees have membership terms due to expire June 30th, 2024. If you're interested in volunteering, please apply via email to taoffice@grafton-ma.gov by using your online portal, or send a letter of interest to the Select Board, Grafton Municipal Center, 30 Providence Road, Grafton, Mass. 01519. Please put in your letters of interest before May 31st, 2024. Grafton's third annual 4th of July parade will take place on Thursday, July 4th at 10 a.m., rain or shine. The parade will stage and start at the North Street School parking lot and end at the common nearest to the Congregational Church. Please wear your patriotic gear, wave your flags, and bring the entire family for celebration, food, and fun. The organizers are currently looking for people to volunteer and participate in the parade. Questions can be sent to Grafton 4th of July Parade at gmail.com. There also is the Grafton Rec 5K is on the upcoming Saturday. I think it's at 10 a.m. So anybody who's interested, you can look up the Grafton Rec information on the website. So first up, we have a public hearing, and it is the Class 3 auto license transfer at 101 Worcester Street.
Okay, hang on a second. All right, the legal notice. Just want to make sure I'm looking at the right one. The Grafton Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May the 7th, 2024 in Conference Room A, Grafton Municipal Center, 30 Providence Road, Grafton, Mass. To hear citizen comments on the application of Michael Aud to transfer the current License 3 license located at 101 Worcester Street, North Grafton, Mass. to John Manellis of Pelham, New Hampshire. The Class 3 license will remain at 101 Worcester Street. The Select Board meeting will begin at 7 p.m. The Zoom link for remote participation will be posted on the May 7th, 2024 Select Board agenda. Interested citizens are invited to attend this public hearing and offer comments in writing in person or via Zoom. Grafton Select Board. This was published in the Grafton News April 18th and April 25th of 2024, the town webpage, as well as the town bulletin board. And I move the board vote to open the public hearing.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is open. I believe we have Mr. Manellis here. Or on Zoom.
I am here.
Hi, come on in. Maybe you could just walk us through the transfer and what your plans are for the car care facility.
So John and Karen own Auto Care Plus, and we bought Mike's early March, and we have multiple locations in New Hampshire and Massachusetts and one in Maine, and we're gonna really operate it as it's always been operated. It's just continue on with the repair shop that Mike's owned for quite a long time, and continue to actually operate the gas station. And that's really the plan. No real changes are going to happen. All the staff is staying on with us, and so far it's been good.
Great. Any questions from the Select Board?
Nope.
Definitely have some big shoes to fill. Mike's well respected in town, and he's been here quite a while. So welcome to Grafton.
Well, thank you. Mike's been, yeah, he didn't want to give it up to anybody. So we're a family business, and we can tend to keep running it that way. So
Fantastic. Great,
all our
great to hear it.
communities love to have us. So we're happy to be there.
Great.
Yep, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Alma.
I agree with you, sir. Big shoes to fill, John. I did go over there for an oil change a couple weeks ago. It was a good experience, but I have to say that Mike was just a stalwart of this community. Really great guy, always open. He was always available to check something out. He had 7 things going on. Worked his heart out for people that came in. He was the first one in and the last one to leave. He did a great job, and I know you do the same. So good luck.
I appreciate that. He's big shoes to fill, but that's what made his business attractive and valuable to us. Like I said, all the same guys are going to be there, all the same mechanics. It's going to be great for everybody. So, and I'm definitely accessible. I might not be on site every day, but I'm easily found and easily if should an issue arise, I'm definitely there for anybody who needs it.
All right, good to hear. Are there any comments from the public? Do we have anybody online?
You do not.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley,
I move the board vote to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley,
I move the board vote to approve the transfer of the Class 3 auto license at 101 Worcester Street to John Manellis of Auto Care Plus, doing business as Mike's Car.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. Congratulations, John.
Thank you guys very much.
Look forward to seeing you in town.
Yeah, I'll look forward to meeting everybody.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm going to be there tonight. I'm actually out of town in Florida. So.
No worries at all. And thanks for coming to the meeting. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
All right. Next up, we have a poll petition by National Grid for Browns Road.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
a legal notice, the select board will hold a public hearing on the request of National Grid for permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the following public way: Browns Road. National Grid to install one SO pole on Browns Road, beginning at a point approximately 727 feet south of the center line of the intersection of Upton Street and continuing approximately 20 feet in a westerly direction, installing one new 35 Class 2 pole for a new service to 51 Browns Road. The public hearing will be held on May 7th, 2024 in Conference Room A of the Grafton Municipal Center located at 30 Providence Road and via Zoom starting at 7 p.m. The Zoom link will be posted on the May 7th, 2024 Select Board agenda. The purpose of this hearing is to provide an opportunity for public comment. Anyone wishing to may attend in person or via Zoom. Grafton Select Board. This was posted to the Town Bulletin Board and the Grafton News on April 18th and April 25th of 2024. So, Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to open the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries and the public hearing is open. Let's see. We have John. Oh, sorry, Jay. Who's here? Is Jay Lucier from National Grid in the list of attendees?
I do not feed them.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any questions on what's in the packet?
No. Any public comment?
Do we have any public comment?
There is no remote public comment.
Okay. Any public comments in the room? I don't see any. So we can.
Yep, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to close the public hearing.
Second.
The motion. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to approve and sign the poll petition by National Grid for Browns Road as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Next up, we have an appointment, which is the Deputy Emergency Management Director, Todd Kramer.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to appoint Todd Kramer as the Deputy Emergency Management Director.
Second.
All right,
I'm
motion
sorry.
and a-
I would. I'm sorry. I
Don't be
drifted.
snoozing down there.
I drifted.
Let's go.
Any, any discussion?
Just, Mr. Chairman,
Of course.
Todd has been a member of the ambulance committee for about the last year. Excellent member of the ambulance committee. Is brought a lot to the table for us, and he will do very well as the Deputy Emergency Management Director.
I have no doubt. Any other comments, questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Next up, we have fire chief appointments, auxiliary firefighters, Richard Leach III, Andrew Clark, and Eric Ramel.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Richard Leach III as an auxiliary firefighter at Station 1 and the appointment of Andrew Clark and Eric Primo as auxiliary firefighters at Station 3.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next up, we have a one-day beer and wine license for Rushford and Sons Brew House at the One Grafton Common location. Let's see. Come on up.
Hello, Select Board. Brian Goodman, owner and manager of Rushford and Sons Brewhouse. Thank you for having the hearing today. I thought I know for the Willard House event a couple weeks ago, I don't think that's pretty cut and dry. I don't think I really need to be here for that. But for this event where it's a little bit more involved, I appreciate you giving the time, and I wanted to be able to be here in person to kind of just walk through the event because it's something that's a little bit bigger than we normally do. So yeah, I'm here to answer any and all questions.
Great, well, I'll just open it up to the board then. Any
Were you a
questions?
DJ in your previous?
No, I wasn't.
You could
actually, when I was younger, I actually did phone sales, and everybody would always ask me, "Are you a real person?" I'm like, "Yes, I am a real boy. I promise. I just my voice." So
It's a good voice.
yeah, thank you. If you say nice things, I'll have to come to more meetings, I guess.
Well, maybe you can just kind of walk us through what the event is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we're going to we've called it the inaugural Grafton Common Beer Festival. So very quick history, not to put everybody to sleep. I actually ended up meeting Kathleen through the Blackstone Valley Chamber of Commerce, and she mentioned she ran the Apple Tree Arts Center, which I'm like, oh, Grafton Common, it's probably a really cool space, and that sounds like a great space to do something. I don't know what yet. So she invites me down to see the space. I see the space. I am a sucker for 19th century Massachusetts architecture, and the place is gorgeous and great shape. I got to do something here. So I worked, I thought it through. I'm like, a beer fest would be great to showcase local breweries, and everybody we've invited and everybody who signed up is local in the general vicinity. And I just thought it would be a great place to have a great event and do what we do in a safe and measured area, and do a beer event that highlights everybody who's roughly 15 minutes drive from here. So, and also I know at least some of the Slowdown guys are local to Grafton too, who's one of the breweries here, and it's just a really great place, and to have a fun, safe, pretty measured event.
Outstanding. Any other questions?
Sure.
Mr. Jefferson?
Mine isn't actually for Mr. Goodman, but for
Great.
can we grant this permit as the application currently stands? Because in the application you said you're expecting 8 breweries.
Yes,
Roughly?
8 total. Yeah.
So if each one is bringing their own tip certified server, we typically require those certifications to grant the license.
Yes. How are you working I'm sorry, I can't remember. So all breweries are bringing their own tip certified people?
Absolutely, and that is pretty standard fare for these things. And I've already communicated to all breweries that before, in advance of the event, I need the tips. I need copies of the tip certification for everybody serving, as well as insurance certs for everybody. I already have our liquor liability insurance. I got all that stuff worked out. And yep, I'm happy. What I would will request is a conditional approval based on you guys receiving the tip certifications, which will, believe me, you guys will have. Assuming we get the conditional approval tonight, I will start hammering everybody. Okay, just get me the paper, get me the homework,
Yep.
so we can just coast from here.
That
But,
was, that was gonna be my suggestion as well.
Exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to approve a one-day beer and wine license for Rushford and Sons Brew House at 1 Grafton Common on Saturday, June the 22nd, 2024, pending receiving all necessary documentation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.
everybody, pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and hopefully this is the first of many successful events. So thank you very much for having me.
Looking forward to it. Saturday, June 22nd.
See you there.
See you on the comment.
That ticket link is going to be live tomorrow morning, so
Love it.
I have a feeling we're going to have a full house. So very excited about it. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Have a good day.
Great stuff. All right, next up we have
Excited guy.
Yeah. That's good. Now I'm up.
Next up we have one-day all alcohol license for Tufts University. I don't think we've got.
No, I think we have
Hi, good
Jessica on Zoom.
Oh, okay,
I
great.
am. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having us. We have two upcoming events. One is a student-led event this weekend. They are doing sort of a fun fair for students, faculty, and staff, about 150 people. Our tip certified Elms Cafe bartender will be doing the serving. And the other one is for May 17th, our Dean's Dinner, which is part of our commencement activities. And it is an awards dinner for the students and faculty.
All right. Any questions?
All right, Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to approve a one-day all alcohol license for Tufts University at 200 Westboro Road on Friday, May the 10th and Friday, May the 17th of 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next up we have an one-day all alcohol
Thank
license
you.
for. Thank you very much. Sorry. Thanks so much, Jessica. Yeah, all alcohol license for the VFW Post 1497. I don't believe we have anybody coming in for that.
No, I don't think we were expecting
All
anyone.
right. So
Mr.
any,
Chair,
any discussion on this
Oh.
just before we? No. Okay, then I'll take a motion.
I move the board vote to approve a one-day all alcohol license for VFW Post 1497 at 25 Main Street on Sunday, May the 26th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next up we have the annual outdoor music license for the Sunflower Shanty. Trevor, come on up.
How's it going?
Great. How are you tonight?
Good. Good.
Do you want to just tell us what you're planning on doing?
Yeah, I mean, we're just looking to get started, I guess, have music Friday, Saturday until 9. I believe there was a few Sundays in the fall that I had written down, but I was looking at the application I passed and it isn't very clear. So it is Friday, Saturday until 9. And then, like I said, the Sunday in the fall, and that would only be till, I believe, 5.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Brasser.
there is language in the special permit that maybe is helpful to this, which
Okay.
I think is congruent with what you're saying right now. Which is just that the applicant proposed that music would only play on Fridays and Saturdays and that it would end at 9 p.m. on each night. They also proposed music on Thursdays and Sundays for the fall months of September and October, in addition to Fridays and Saturdays, all to end by 9. Is that
Yeah, yep. And
that's
then
congruent
so,
with what you had?
yeah, and then I mean the Thursdays are just, you know, it's not all written out, but it's, you know, in the past we've had, you know, a local business that came up
Mhm.
and they wanted to have their business party.
Right.
But they had like I think it was like a trivia night.
Yep.
So I don't know, I don't want to have to be coming back to you guys for if someone's like, hey, can I have a party and do trivia, you know? So that's why I, you know, we were trying to cover all bases when we
Sure.
were going through the
Yeah,
process.
no, we appreciate that. We just want to be specific about what it is that we're granting, so I appreciate that. So, Friday and Saturday till 9. When is starting hours for that?
See, that's sort of tricky too, because, you know, if there's a Saturday that we only get someone to play in the afternoon, it may be, you know, 4 or 5 till 9. But if we can, you know, get someone in the morning, when I say morning, but afternoon, it would
Yep.
be like 1 or 2 that we would start, you know. I think that's like what we were doing in the past.
Okay,
So the application does say the operational hours are 11
11
a.m.
AM, right.
and so presumably it's 11 a.m. to 9 p.m.
So it's essentially, and that's like where it wasn't clear, because that was like the operational hours, meaning like when everybody gets in, we get started, you know.
Right.
Open up. So I mean, I wouldn't think that a band or anyone coming in to play would come in at 11. I should have wrote 1, you know,
Okay.
1 o'clock the music would start.
So-
It's not going to be 11.
Okay,
Okay, so music from 1 to 9,
1 to 9, yep.
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, and then 1 to 9, adding Thursday and Sunday for the fall months of September and October.
Probably not 1 o'clock on Thursday, right?
It won't be 1 o'clock, and on Sunday it won't be till 9. Because I believe, well, we close. I think we close earlier than 9 on Sunday as a
And,
whole.
and our
so-
music license has a limitation too. So thank you for. Sundays are only till 6 p.m.
Right. So
Correct,
say
yeah.
like 2 to 6 or something. Thursdays,
Thursdays, it would probably be. It's just, I mean, it's.
I would just keep it for
6
for
to 9.
clarity. It would be
1 to 9.
1 to 9.
on Thursday.
1 to 9 on every day that you're requesting, except for Sunday, which is 1 to 6.
Yeah.
And the 1 to 9 would only be September, October
Right.
for the Thursday.
Thursday and Sunday. Yep.
Okay,
So, and then I guess that would be my question on that aspect. If I had like a party, like I was explaining, does that need an entertainment in? Alrighty.
It
Yeah.
so are you asking if you had something on a Thursday, not in September or October?
Right. I'm just saying that even if I have a party and say they didn't want per se trivia, but do I need an entertainment? I mean, the live entertainment and the whatever for a party?
Uh,
I don't.
I don't think,
I don't. believe-
well, it's just my opinion.
With
but
music,
I-
like
I-
live music or no?
I think if it's the business having an event where you have customers and you've got live music, that's when you need a permit.
Alright.
But if you're just having a party with your relatives, then it's a party with your relatives.
Or no, if someone like, I mean, doesn't even have live music, I'll ask that question. We don't need a,
No, so if you're not having live music, then the entertainment license does not apply.
alrighty. And then,
Essentially.
so essentially,
But also keep in mind that live music is generally regarded also as like someone using a PA.
well, that's why I ask, like, on the trivia aspect, it's not gonna be someone out there strumming along, but, you know, if someone reads out a question.
Will that be on any other day? So you're
Well,
saying
I'm just
maybe
saying if it
Thursdays
is a
earlier
Thursday-
than the fall? Is that what you're driving at?
Well, the only reason I say a Thursday is because we're not open and having people come, so, you know, if it's more or less a smaller size party with the place sort of by themselves, not by themselves, but, you know, just,
Yeah, I think the only way to do that via the entertainment license process would be for that Thursday. Let's say it's just using, if I'm following correctly, just using Thursdays would be to add Thursdays to the whole mix or for a wider
the
swath
season.
of time. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know that you can. I mean, yeah, it would.
I'm not
It,
trying
it
to
would be
make it
difficult.
complicated.
Well, no, I'm trying to make sure that we're all on the exact same page because I think that the hit and miss approach is where we'll all wind up in the rub, which we don't want. So, you know, I think it's kind of an all or nothing kind of approach in that
Really?
in that way.
Okay.
So,
Unless you create some other process whereby, you know, Mr. Holden would have to come back, because otherwise, how are you going to do that on a seasonal or annual entertainment license?
Well, couldn't you just say Thursdays from 5 to 7 trivia party?
Well, but this is
Or
like,
if there's
the
a
pro-
trivia party?
the problem we're at that I foresee is that Trevor's using the trivia night as a hypothetical,
Correct. Yeah.
but it could be any type of function that might not be playing live music, but they might be using a PA. Right. That's
Well, what
we're-
if I have a kids party and they want to have a clown come over? You know what I mean? And he has a wireless clip to talk to the kids because we're in a wide open area.
Sure. I
I just don't want. No, I mean I don't want to get off track. But it's,
Why don't we put on here no clowns in Grafton?
Lose a lot of people.
Well,
Okay, so if we opened up the license for the season for Thursday, then I think we'd cover a lot. And then on Sunday would be in the fall, I think is what we've been talking about. So,
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Mead,
can we, and I'm saying can we, I know we can. If Trevor doesn't use the entertainment license on a Thursday, you know, once or twice a year, he can just notify your office on a Thursday when he's gonna do it. And that way there, whenever you're gonna use it, you notify the town administrator's office, and we're gonna be,
as long as I don't have to come in.
oh, no,
I'm just
no,
joking.
no, if we write that into the.
I'm good with that too.
Right.
but Trevor, we love
No,
having you come. Come
I
on.
love coming. Yes.
If we write that in, then you don't have to worry about it.
Right, and that's easy enough. I can just call, leave it. But
Just say, look, we got a party
Yeah,
on
we won't
Thursday
make it
night
complicated.
and we're gonna, you know, we'll have the license activated for that Thursday night. The other Thursday night, you don't have it, so.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley,
so do you think really the Thursday you need like 1 to 9? You think that's, you would potentially
no,
have
I don't think I would use it. I think
with 3 to 9 or something smaller work, you think? Like, just thinking about
yeah.
more
I mean, yeah, on a
palatable to-
Thursday because most people, even if they get out of work, it may be 3, 4 o'clock. So I
So
mean,
I'm just-
I wouldn't be opposed to it 3 to.
3 to 9, something like that. Just thinking about, you know, everyone over there and the hours and whatnot, so.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Andy, you look like you want to say something.
Mr.
I'm not the
Jefferson.
chairman.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
I was just waiting for Henry to finish. that's
Thank
all.
you.
Devil's advocating here a little bit. I'm not sure I understand the thought process behind granting all 4 days in a general time frame. Because we do, you know, they've been gracious enough to come in and say, we're really looking for only 2 days during the summer and to expand that into the fall. You know, and it's not that I wouldn't take them at their word, but you know, this being a licensing and rather than leaving it up to a discussion, having that written down so everybody's clear on what the expectation is. So, could you help me further understand that?
What I was saying is with an annual licensing process, it's hard to provide flexibility, right? So Trevor doesn't know what those dates are going to be, so it's kind of impossible for him to know or for us to know in advance when there may be an opportunity for the farm to have an event on a Thursday, right? And so, you know, you either have to say, okay, entertainment license is granted for Thursday, and they just might not do anything on Thursdays for the majority of the year. Or you have to create some other mechanism by which additional Thursdays could be granted unless the board decides no Thursdays except for the 2 months that we had specified earlier. Which I think if I understand Mr. Mead's approach, it would be, you know, with selected Thursdays during the regular season with notification to the town administrator's office. And then we could monitor any complaints that we get on a Thursday and then revisit it if it was an issue. You could also do something that says, up to 5 Thursdays throughout the summer with notification to the town administrator's office. Or, I mean, the good thing about a music or entertainment license is you have the ability at any time to change that license. So you could grant it for Thursdays and go through the summer, and if it's every Thursday and that becomes problematic, Trevor could come back in and we could have that conversation. Or you could do it, up to so many Thursdays, and then with notifications so we could actually know what we're tracking. There are options to do it that way. I was just trying to think of the cleanest way to do it so that everyone understands the expectation, not from Trevor's side, from our side, to any of that. This is how it is. It's fairly clear cut.
I worry the neighbors. The process would be they reach out on a Thursday to alert you that they're going to be using that license on a Thursday, that we're not giving the neighbors any advance notice. I mean, I suppose there's always a possibility and they should technically prepare for that. I don't know, it just.
And maybe that's the limiting factor, right? So the trade-off is, and I'm just spitballing out loud. I'm not advocating, but let's say you authorize 5 Thursdays. I'm just picking a number too. That gives some flexibility, but also isn't just carte blanche every Thursday or something like that. I don't know what that looks like. So that the farm still has the flexibility to maybe do a couple of these ad hoc weeks, but also, it's not just free reign. That's not the words I was looking for, but that's all I can get.
Yeah, it's not a blank check.
Yes, blank check, yeah. Free
So-
for all.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Allen.
I don't know how many people, there's probably a few people in the audience here in the room that know all about, the vote that we took last year at the town meeting. And there may be some folks listening in or watching, but full disclosure, I fully voted for it. I supported it, and of the things that I advocate for publicly, I'm pretty private about that. This was one I was pretty public about, for sure. And I'm glad I was, because I'm a fan of businesses enhancing their business models to innovate and survive and maybe even thrive a little bit too. And, so it's good for the business, it's good for the community, and what you're doing with this shanty, in my view, is I think it's a win for our town. I think it's cool that people go there at different times and visit. I think it's a bit of an attraction for us. And I had been operating under the impression that, some of the complexities around this were ironed out and they were behind us. And it feels like maybe that's sort of reemerged a little bit. There's some conversation. We've all been probably contacted in some way or another with some abutters, and something to consider. And I would say that for me, as probably your biggest advocate, the one little raw nerve for me is some experience in my life. And it's not just once, but a few times in my home where, you go home and it's your oasis, it's your happy spot. It could be big, it could be small, it could be nothing, it could be whatever it is, but it's that place for me who works 60 hours a week, come home, chill out. I love it here. When that dynamic changes, it can be for some people gut-wrenching. It can be really hard. And again, I speak from experience because it's happened to me and it stinks. So I'm here now thinking, as your biggest advocate, trying to balance, what does this look like? And I'm hearing Sundays till 9, Thursdays and
Sundays
stuff.
till 5.
Then I get, and I see that's changed a little bit. And I guess for me, I'm just wondering, I know that we can we sort of find a way to thread the needle of compromise? Because every Thursday till 9 with the ability to play music, which by the way, you should know this. I'm a fan of loud, hard rock and roll music. I have tattoos of Eddie Van Halen on my shoulder. I mean, that's my jam.
Don't tell everybody that.
But, well, it's a public thing, so I love it. So, but then you get into the wee hours of the night, and then I am probably a little bit more like, Warren Zevon, Bob Seger, Against the Wind, nice little acoustic, mellow it out a little bit. And I know that sounds silly, but the point I'm making is that can we find a way together? This is down the road. This is happening one way or another. And in a lot of ways, I'm very proud that it's happening. But is there a way that we can find a way to thread this needle of compromise and kind of get this thing like settled once and for all? Because it feels bad a little bit on just a little piece of
I
it.
don't know if it will, though, to be completely honest. And
Okay.
I'm being truthful with you, and I hear what you're saying, and even living that life, or, how you were explaining, I do the same on a daily basis. I know people can look at it a certain way, but I live that same thing because that's my oasis. That's my happy place. You know what I mean? And when I don't feel comfortable on it, it's gut wrenching.
It's a bummer.
On that aspect, and I feel as though that we've been going through this process and we've
Yep.
done what everybody has sort of suggested to us or guided us to do. So I'm just,
Yep.
I'm by no means am I trying to bother anyone and make anyone upset. I want to respect people and move on and just put it behind us. So, that's why I'm here, just trying to come to a compromise.
Could part of that compromise potentially be maybe no music on Thursdays? And
We weren't even really talking music on Thursdays. That's the thing. I was just more or less, hypothetically speaking,
Sure.
and using it just to cover that basis. So if I thought that, it's good, we can have, a party, a kid's birthday party, and then, that happens, and then you guys are getting calls because I think I can do it, and I can't, you know what I mean? So.
yeah, and Trevor, I'm talking as much to these four folks as I am with you, because there's some experience here that could help drive, maybe a really good solution once and for all. Good for all, and get over there on 2 o'clock in the afternoon and play a little cornhole and maybe have an adult soda together. So, but it does get a little bit loud. I think it's noticeable and it's tough.
Mr. Chair?
My view.
Oh, when he's done.
Ms. Foley.
So what about, thinking about like Thursdays 4 to 8:30? So just a little bit earlier on a work night? And this would be, so for the summer is my proposal. So June to October, let's say, I don't know when you're starting, but Thursdays 4 to 8:30 for entertainment, Friday, Saturday 1 to 9, and then you said Sundays 1 to 5, you think, or 1 to 6?
Yeah, because I think we close it. We were closing at 5 on
That's
Sunday.
even better, okay.
So
So
it's-
September, October, sorry to interrupt,
You're
but
good.
September, October, Sundays 1 to 5, which I think is even, more palatable on a Sunday, right?
Okay, and Emery, you're saying 4 to 8:30 Thursdays during the
The
rest of the
shebang.
season.
Yeah.
Are you saying for the whole season or just?
For the whole season, thinking that to avoid that we could do, I think Ray had a good idea where open it up where you have to contact the town administrator, but then I understand someone else who said, how are the neighbors, said Andy, right? Getting to know that, does it come in on a Wednesday or does it come in on a Thursday? It could see potentially some issues with that.
Yeah.
So rather just, and maybe, what's going on over there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So cautioning you that ideally not 4-piece bands every Thursday for the whole summer, right?
No,
Yeah.
no, not at all. And honestly, to tell you the truth, that back to like what Evan was saying, it may not
It's just
happen
opening
at
it
all
up
this
for you,
year,
yeah.
But if we cover our bases, so if I get that opportunity to have that, it's covered. It's just, because of everything that's been going on, we've spent a lot of money. I'm not gonna pass up an opportunity, to create something better.
Of course.
And then, if I may, Mr. Chair, knowing that if there are issues, then we would have to potentially relook at it, right? So hopefully that would work for everybody involved with the sound, keeping the sound down and in that booth and whatnot.
I was gonna say, and that's, even if it was like a party like that, it would be, the tent would be set up, everything would be taken care of on that aspect.
I just think it makes it easier. It's like, on one day, off another day. It just seems confusing to me.
Yeah, I agree. Mr.
Mr.
Jefferson,
Chair?
you had your hand up.
Just as a refresh, when we had done the entertainment license in 22, we had Fridays 5:30 to 8:30, Saturdays 1:30 to 4:30, and then 5:30 to 8:30, and then Sunday 1:30 to 4:30. Mr. Alamo talked about finding the commonality here, and I think from your application and reviewing the permitting process with the planning board, you guys are more than yep. You're trying to get there. You're compromising. You're working towards this. I think your neighbors are too. I think we need to remember that even in those, single broadcast trivia type situations, the one time we did have a noise violation last year was when we had a PA announcer at an event over there. So those things, without proper oversight, can get to be just as loud as anything else that performs over there. I think, I don't know if we have to spell it out, but I think you're still going to be limited to acoustic music just because of the nature of the 10 decibels at the property line.
We haven't even been there though.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying, like, it's a new chapter. Like, I guess essentially I'm coming to you guys as what we work for. You know what I mean? And like Evan was reading on the application, it sort of spells it out hours. You know what I mean? And so I'm not trying to come in and be like, oh, I want music till 10 o'clock because I feel like I should. You know what I mean? So I'm not looking to have a crazy band up there. But again, we've had people in the past that I don't feel as though that we're loud and people love, and these people want to come back, and there's really it's all hearsay. It's no different than me saying I have a video showing that we're at whatever decimal, to our neighbors saying we have a video showing that it's at this decimal, to the zoning board officer saying I have a video at this decimal. There's really no true.
The zoning board one is the one that matters to us. That's
100%
the gauge that we have, and
But I'm
that's
just
how
saying there's no actual readings out there that at least I'm aware of, because I've asked even Mr. Berger himself, and I haven't seen anything. I've seen the videos that I have. I've seen the videos that have been included in the packets and everything, so I have seen those.
Yeah.
So if I can just jump in
Yep.
1 second. I think it's really important for you guys to work with Mr. Berger to figure out what is the reliable way for you guys to self-monitor.
Yeah.
So that if there's a complaint, you can say, this is what we've been doing, and we've talked to Mr. Berger. We're under the noise regulation, because we don't want it to be overly subjective. So if you can work with Mr. Berger to try to figure out a reliable way, and I don't know how that is, but maybe it's a couple of different places that you monitor from.
I mean, he's come up quite a few times himself.
Yep, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
all of us want to avoid the situation where we have repeated complaints and we need to call you back in here and have another discussion. For me, I do think this is a turn the page kind of situation. You guys have gone through the process. We went to town meeting. I take you at your word that you're looking to respect the neighbors, but I also am, I'm somebody who likes to verify things too. So if we get repeated complaints, we're gonna have to have another discussion about this, and I really would rather not do that. But here's the thing, I wanna also, when and if there are complaints, if somebody turns up and there's no issue, then I'm not gonna register that as, a knock against the business.
Correct.
Because I'm also trusting, and I hope the Rich Licks are listening, that they're not gonna be launching complaints that, like, over and over to just create enough of a noise for me, the process is, if they complain, somebody turns up and you guys are doing what you've been doing and it's under the decibel levels, then just keep doing what you're doing. And whoever shows up, whether it's the police or the zoning officer, should just show up, do his reading, and just drive on. And maybe stop in and say, hey, could you turn it down a little bit? But you don't have to, I guess. But what we just, all of us want to be in a situation where those decibel readings are pretty reliable, that you're taking to self-monitor, and if somebody turns up, that also is going to show up. It shouldn't really be that subjective. It really shouldn't.
No, and I don't mean to like
So,
get the. I'm just because like we've had, as you guys know, many visits by the police officers. We've had many, and that's where it gets me because like not one time have I had the police officers come up and say, "Hey, I heard it coming down. You know, you need to turn this down." They go, "We don't see anything wrong."
so,
The
go
difference
ahead,
is
sorry.
that we actually have a measurement now.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I think-
absolutely.
So both you and the police and the inspector should all be working
same
off
page.
of that objective measurement. So it's not something that anybody should have to guess. So it's really not up to the police officer necessarily to say that sounds loud or it doesn't sound loud. They should have a little meter to say it's too loud or it's not. And that's it, really. So.
Yeah.
if I may, so we do own a calibrated sound meter now. And so I think that'll be the end all be all. So it's
So I
not,
think what I'm suggesting is that they coordinate with the person with the meter and figure out their own way to monitor with their own equipment, whether it's phones or whatever, and
Right.
to try to get the right app so that you know when you've crossed that threshold.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Mead.
there's actually a device, Trevor, that it's a construction noise monitoring device. And you could sit it right on the wall while you're operating. And what it does is it sets off an alarm, not there. God.
it's super
I don't
loud.
want that to happen. But it sets off an alarm like it goes to your phone.
Yeah.
And it tells you right away if you're over that, whatever the level is that you set. So those are used in a lot in healthcare because of the noise factor in healthcare. But they're also used on construction sites generally to monitor noise so that they can say, you know, it was this decibel and it really wasn't that. It's not cheap.
No,
That's
no.
that's
I
the
get
thing.
it.
That's the problem. It's not cheap, but it would take care of your problem. And you know, all you do is sit it out there on a platform, and it's only about this big. You sit it out on a platform, and that's it.
Yeah.
So-
So anything that you can do to sort of inoculate yourself against complaints, I think all of us will be better off. There's a couple things that I wanted to bring up. One is the correspondence that we got today around the operating business and the permit and whatnot. Does anybody want to talk about that or?
No.
Okay. Fine.
Mr. Chair, I just have one more
Yeah.
thing. I agreed with Anne Marie's, you know, Friday, Saturday, and all of that. And Trevor, on Sundays, do you just do acoustic, pretty much, or do you have?
I mean, on a Sunday, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Well,
I
that's,
mean, I'm just, last time, I believe it was, was it 2020?
yeah, we talked about that
right,
a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so I believe, I mean, it's, and again, a Sunday may be rare on, you know, in the fall. It's
So-
just,
so-
we're not,
So you wouldn't be opposed to limiting the music on Sunday to acoustic?
right.
That sounds good.
That'd
Yeah.
be good, yeah.
Sounds helpful.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Jefferson.
I mean, that was pretty much the restriction we had placed on them in the past
Yes,
anyways. That,
yeah,
that
it
still
was.
incurred, you know, I know it didn't, we can't prove one way or another that it incurred a noise violation, but it incurred complaints at least.
Yeah. Well, he was a bad guitarist.
We also had considered Sundays off for the majority of the summer in an effort to give the neighbors one day off, you know, to themselves and a bit of respite.
Yeah.
I
So I think we're talking about Sunday, 1 to 5, acoustic, September, October.
And what Anne Marie had said about,
So that was Thursday. So can I just make a suggestion on what we do? So we got 1 to 9 on Friday, Saturday, basically starting immediately to the rest of the season. September, October, we would have Sunday 1 to 5 p.m. with a restriction that it's acoustic only, and then September, October, we would have 3 p.m. To 8:30 p.m. 4 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And there would
That would be like selected events, like the trivia nights or whatever.
well, so September, October, I think we're just saying they can go on Thursdays during those hours, but during the rest of the season, during the summer, they would have to be basically by appointment, and I would suggest that we limit them to 3 to start with, to try to, and then if they need more, they can always come back for a one time if they need it. But at least that would give them some flexibility if they had the opportunity to book something during the summer for a Thursday, that they could operate in that 4 to 8:30 time frame. Does that sound good?
It
everybody?
sounds good to me.
Mr. Jefferson.
Trevor, you okay with
Any
that?
chance
or-
we could get the nights to 8:30 instead of 9
I
unilaterally?
I wanted to talk about that as well. I think we should go 8:30.
I was just saying 9 because of, to cover my bases, so,
Sure.
you know, I don't, you guys have probably been out to see bands and people play live music.
Yep.
You know, most of the time, like, they have that period of setting up, breaking down, taking breaks in between, you know what I mean? So it's, I guess what I'm getting at, it isn't a continuous 4 hours or a continuous 2 hours or,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
I do. I guess what I was coming from
yeah.
is if we set it at 8:30, there's the breakdown, there's people sort of filing, finishing their last beers and leaving the park, just from a disruptive,
That's, I thought that was for music. We're
it
talking
is for
about.
music. But I would anticipate usually when the music ends, you have some people that are gonna take off because the music's
Oh,
done.
I thought,
So
yeah.
that's all I'm saying. So just, that gives you a little bit of wind down time, after 8:30, so that, it's, effectively, it'd be real quiet hours, at night.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Jefferson.
Similar line of thought, and also I saw it noted in the planning board report that you guys are going to have like an overhead light that goes off at 9 as well, or runs until roughly 9 o'clock at night. I don't know how much you're going to need that at the summertime use, but I figured if music ended slightly before it got darker in the setting, it'd be for everybody's benefit as well.
I just want to be clear, but as an individual, I'm open to extending that to 9 if things go well. But I think, for right now, I'd feel much more comfortable at the 8:30. That's just me as an individual, so what do you guys feel about that?
I like what you just outlined.
Somebody write it down.
I wrote down.
Matt wrote it down.
I was, and so no Thursdays for the whole summer. We're just gonna do 3.
We would allow up to 3, basically by appointment, by notification to the TA office.
So
And
I
then-
only can do 3.
During the
Just
summer.
during the summer, and then September, October, you could do all Thursdays that you booked.
I was, I mean, I don't know.
I don't,
My
yeah.
proposal was for the whole summer, for what it's worth, but
All right.
I'm sorry.
Well, what do you guys want to do?
You okay with that?
What, 3?
Yeah.
Not really, but I'm just saying.
What are you looking for?
Well, I'm just saying there's a compromise, and I'm not trying to. But it's like 8:30. Like, I feel like a compromise is like both working together. You know what I mean?
Sure. We're trying to respect their need for quiet during some periods of time, and also support your business, obviously. I mean, we could go 5 events,
or like 2 a month,
or
so
2,
6.
2 a month.
If he's talking June, July, August, 2 a month.
Yep.
And then September, October, have at it.
Okay.
I guess, yeah.
All right.
And then, assuming no complaints, can I come back and get more?
This can be altered at any time.
Well, no, I'm saying like even on those
So
2
yes.
months, if we go 2 months and we have no complaints.
Yep. I'm open to any amendments if things are going well.
What I'm hearing is compromise, and that goes a long way. I think it's a big deal. So yeah, I mean, it goes well, come back.
Okay. So what we have at the moment is, does the board want to go 8:30?
So 8:30 for music,
for
but not
Fridays.
to close down.
Right, just for music, for Friday, Saturday. And actually, it would be for Thursday as well, and then Sunday they would stop music at 5.
How does that feel for
Oh,
you?
yeah, sorry, I was just listening. Yeah,
Yep.
I think that's what we're talking about.
Okay. All right. So we have 1 to 8:30, Friday and Saturday, starting now through the rest of the season. We have in September and October, all weekends. We have 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. That is restricted to acoustic music. We have Thursdays during the summer months until September. We would have 2 a month with a notification to the TA's office. And that would be during the hours of 4 to 8:30, and then in September and October we would have every weekend the Thursdays open up to that 4 to 8:30 time slot. Does that sound,
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to approve an outdoor music license for Holden's Sunflower Shanty at 95 Weston Street 6 times on Thursdays from May to September from 4 to 8:30. All summer, Friday and Saturday, 1 to 8:30. And then Thursdays from 4 to 8:30, Sundays from 1 to 5, September and October, with the restriction of acoustic only on Sundays.
That's right. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Um,
Go for it.
the one thing that I felt like we didn't get to that I wanted to float past you guys, and it wouldn't be anything I think for this year, would be the possibility of a more semi-permanent, like bandstand type area. Doesn't have to be anything extravagant, but the tent was originally proposed as a temporary measure with the sound blankets before we knew this was going to be a viable enterprise for you guys. Now that we have the special permit and we know that you'll be able to do it, and the select board is amenable to granting those entertainment licenses. I didn't know if it was something the board would wish to discuss, but anyways, it was something I wanted to float for the idea of future years.
I would just say let's get there first before talking about it, because everything isn't even completed. What's that saying? It's crawl before we walk. Let's figure everything out and cross that bridge when we get there.
I'm with you.
I agree with that. It's a fair call.
So I think let's put that in our back pocket. Maybe revisit this towards the end of the season, and I'm definitely open to that discussion. I think all of us wanted to see how it goes. Trevor,
Can we? What covers the acoustic term? Like, I'm just
one
what is
person on an
acoustic?
instrument.
Yeah,
it's
just one.
I think it's
No
non-amplified.
amp, yeah.
Just so non-amplified.
Yep.
All right.
I guess I shouldn't say just one person. Just no amp, yeah.
Yeah, no amps.
Which for
Okay,
your
see, and I
space, I
wouldn't-
think
and-
isn't a bad thing.
And I wouldn't think, the reason I said acoustic on Sunday is because I didn't want any bands with drums, with basses, with all of that. But I've been to, acoustic farms all up in New Hampshire. And with 100 people there, you can't even hear the guitar.
Right.
The guy can strum that thing as hard as he wants. You can't hear it. So,
Would we say like acoustic with amp, like one person playing a guitar being able to use their their little box?
Well, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
saying
different
even
than,
two.
that's
Yeah.
different than, you know,
yeah,
so,
yeah.
I'm not.
I think
Yeah, we're
Ray's
not
making
looking
a
for
good
like
point.
drums or anything. Just
Yeah.
even just for that one guy to even when he's singing, it's not.
That's
if
what I
the,
meant
if
when
the
I
wind
said-
blows sideways the wrong way, it's like
Yeah, that's what I meant when I
Yeah.
said acoustic. I didn't mean a guy, with people 100 feet away is, what's he singing? You can't hear it, but it's,
playing the air guitar.
yeah, right. He might as well be.
All right, so we're still in discussion. Did we want to amend that to remove the acoustic?
No, I want acoustic guitars on Sunday, but they can be amplified.
Okay.
Acoustic guitars, but there's no bass, there's no drum, there's no horns.
it's
there's
basically
no-
one person
there's
with a
nothing.
guitar. and
Correct,
and a
or two,
microphone
or whatever,
singing
yeah.
songs.
Well, so to Mr. Mead's point, that was, I think, my point earlier is that we still have the 10 decibel sound restriction,
Absolutely.
over ambient at the
Nothing
property
changes.
line. So the other nights you may be technically allowed to use those things, but I think that's what's going to ultimately keep the noise in check is that you can have as many pieces up there as you want, but you still can't go above
Over
10
that 10, right?
decibels
right.
at the. So
That's a
whether we're
good
talking
point.
about an
It's-
acoustic that's plugged in just to broadcast slightly, you're gonna it's gonna work itself out. I guess is where I'm going.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We have parameters in place.
Should I amend the motion to strike acoustic?
Not strike acoustic, add acoustic amplified. Correct?
Acoustic
correct.
amplified.
Yeah.
All right. Sure.
Is that like a
And finally,
All right.
double on top?
Yeah, well, yeah, kind of, but I wasn't good in English, so.
All right. I'm feeling like we need to move on.
Yeah.
So, everybody good?
You good?
I think, did we vote on that?
No,
we have to do
not
the
yet.
final vote.
So I made a motion.
Yeah, we have a second. We're in discussion.
Yeah. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Trevor, thanks so much for coming in.
Not a problem.
Thank you, Trevor.
Close the rest of the whole.
Thank you, Tyler.
Good night.
Congratulations.
Appreciate
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have the Recreation Facility Strategic Plan presentation by activists.
It's Activitas.
Activitas.
I thought it was Davidas.
Activitas.
So good evening, Select Board. I just wanted to bring in Jonathan and Megan. We've been working with them with Activitas. Through ARPA funding, we're able to do a facility strategic plan. They're working on the final report, which when it's complete, will go to Evan, Will, along with you all just to review, but they're just going to kind of give you the SparkNotes version of what they've discovered already. It's been very helpful. It's kind of been one of my big projects since I've started in August is just looking at where our fields are and where we can get them to be. So I'll let them share with all that information they found for you. So take it away.
Great, thank you very much, and good evening, members of the Select Board. May I have permission to share my screen?
Yes, but I can't give it to you. William can.
We'll make it so.
It should be so.
All right, let's see here. Great, is this on your one screen?
Sure is.
Great. So again, thank you very much for spending a few minutes with us this evening to give this presentation. Once again, my name is Jonathan Charwick. I'm a registered landscape architect with Activitas, along with Megan Donahoe, my colleague, and landscape designer that helped me out on this project. So just to make a note, this is a little bit more of a condensed presentation out of respect of everyone's time from what was in your original packet. However, if there's any questions on anything that isn't presented here, but that was in your packet, please feel free to ask. So we're briefly going to review what we've done since this past summer, a review of the existing sites that we've done the analysis on. We're going to touch on field usage and maintenance of those 6 facilities, talk a little bit about the survey that was done online this past fall, and then talk about the preliminary proposed improvements that are coming out of the previous study. So the existing sites that we studied as part of this study was the Airport Park, Ferry Street Fisher Park, Perry Hill Park, Norcross Park, Riverview Park, and Silver Lake Beach. This was part of our proposal, the 6 facilities. We did touch a little bit on some of the school facilities, but we'll discuss in a moment how that was achieved. So one of our first steps was to go to each park and do a
physical analysis to take a look at the condition of all the amenities. So, ADA accessibility, playground structures, their existing conditions, a number of the basketball courts, to see what needs to be done over the next 5-10 years and figure out what those costs ultimately are. And again, these are some of the images from the various parks that we visited. And this will ultimately be a basis for what the improvements are moving forward. And then as part of this, field usage maintenance was one of the things we looked at, specifically some of the parks that have natural grass fields that are used for athletic purposes. So one of the things we were able to do were we were able to get the number of hours that are programmed and scheduled from the recreation department to first figure out of those six facilities, how many hours are actually being put on these fields, and based on the condition of those fields, sort of figure out what's going on. On the right-hand side of this slide, you can see there's generally six levels of maintenance requirements for natural grass fields. Starts with light maintenance all the way through sort of heavy level 6 maintenance. And that's all based on use of hours. So the less hours you're putting on a grass field, the less maintenance is generally required. However, once you get to a certain threshold of hours, which is around 360 hours a year, you're at the highest level of maintenance, and sometimes more maintenance really isn't going to do it. Because natural grass fields are a natural breathing facility. So, you're using in the fall and the spring seasons, get some rest in the winter. Obviously, you use in the summer for summer programs, but those fields need rest to regenerate and sort of come back to life. And obviously, if you're overusing them in any degree and not giving them enough time to rest, you're in a position where you're never going to get those fields to perform like they should. And unfortunately, not unlike a lot of your communities around here, most of the facilities are at either the level 4 or level 6 maintenance requirements. So, probably no surprise to this group and a lot of people in the community, a lot of your facilities, the natural grass fields are overused. And we'll talk a little bit about sort of how we address those in a few different ways. Next, as I noted earlier, in the fall, we had an electronic survey that was put out to the community. We had 213 respondents. All of the responses will be part of the final report. I think a number of the questions were in the packet that was sent to you folks earlier, but I'll just summarize a few of those items. So based on the results of the survey, Ferry Fisher Street Park was the most popular park of the 6, and least popular, the park that needs the most attention, was Perry Hill Park, and that was pretty consistent when we looked at a lot of the results of that survey. As you can see on this slide, as we start thinking about the proposed improvements, obviously, the most is Perry Hill Park. Attention on Norcross, Ferry Fisher, and Riverview Park. And then the most important amenities across the board from your community are the playgrounds, providing parking, maintenance of the existing facilities, bathroom facilities, lighting, both pedestrian level along with athletic lighting, accessibility, and safety. So as we look at those 6 parks and look at what some of the proposed improvements are, I'll go specifically through each one. So Airport Park, again, based on the conditional review and what we're hearing from the community. The basketball court is certainly in need of a renovation. The playground, which includes, playground equipment and port-in-place surfacing to bring up to current ADA codes. And then across the board at most of your park, providing some ADA improvements. We know a few of the parks in town have had ADA improvements, I think, this past summer, so we did account for that. So some of the parks need a little bit more than others, but, making sure we're having good accessibility to all the, paved bleacher areas, team areas for the ball fields, and things of that nature. Ferry Fisher Street Park. So this is one of the 2 facilities that we looked at the grass fields and look at their condition and their overall use from the community, and sort of looks instead of overall maintenance, the potential to actually do some significant renovations, whether they be natural grass or synthetic turf. So as part of this study, we provide costs for those items. We're certainly not saying that natural grass belongs in this location versus synthetic turf and vice versa. But when we start thinking about how a lot of the facilities are overused, often some of the results of that study says, all right, you can look at different surfaces, which may be synthetic turf, or you're looking at, is there other spaces in town that you can create more natural grass fields? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but that's, sort of how we get those numbers to be a little more achievable from a maintenance and a performance standpoint. Consistent with some of the other facilities, bleachers, playground, and ADA improvements at this park as well. Perry Hill Park, this was the one of the 6 parks that, these costs and renovations are renovating in kind. So, if you wanted to renovate the basketball courts, the playgrounds, and ADA improvements certainly could. But of all the 6 parks, this is one that we sort of may recommend another study occurs, because renovating what you have in kind in that location at that park may not be the right thing. And this may actually want to be more of a passive park. So, again, these are renovations in kind. This is what it would cost to sort of bring some life back to this park. But of all the 5 parks, this is one that we're sort of recommending. There may be another study down the road with ourselves or another consultant to figure out maybe there's something better we can do with this park down the road.
Is there not already a plan for that?
Not for Perry Hill.
No, no.
It's the Mill Street Park or
Really
Whitney
close though,
Park.
right?
They're right there.
Adjacent to it, right? So,
Yeah, and we sometimes those conversations do bleed into each other, because if you're doing work at one, you might move something from one to the other, and then that moves something somewhere else.
Norcross Park, again, fairly consistent, the basketball court renovation. Obviously, the playground is getting repaired from damage last year. So these costs are specific to the port and play surfacing and some fencing, and then some ADA improvements as well. And then Riverview Park, as I mentioned earlier, this is the second of the facilities, knowing the amount of use that field gets, looking at a potential natural grass renovation, or maybe as a candidate for a synthetic turf surface as well to help with some of that use. And then again, the playground renovations and ADA improvements throughout the park. And lastly, Silver Lake Beach was pretty straightforward. Just some ADA improvements. Obviously for the uses that use the beach over there, there wasn't a lot of additional program items we need to incorporate. And I will note, for the most part of all of these 6 parks, there wasn't really a desire from the community, the survey, and what we looked at to say, hey, we need to add these things to the parks. So this study was really, what do you have here? What do you need to, sort of fix and maintain over time? And then as we look at these costs, looking at over, 1 to 5 year and 5 to 10, knowing, this isn't something that happens over one summer. So as we, in general speaking, close up with the cost generally, so we looked at this saying, okay, in 2024, 2029, 2034, these are the potential renovation costs, which again, significant numbers. These are, budgetary numbers, so we haven't done any true design. So we're working over some aerial mapping with some unit costs as it relates to some layout. So, we're looking at this from a budgetary standpoint. Obviously, if you go down the road with any of these facilities and go into design, you really start getting into the meat of, what do we need to do here? What do we need to do there? And tightening up the design. So all of these do have 20% design construction contingency, knowing that down the road there may be some things that are added to these scopes. We do have 10% for soft costs, so for someone to do the surveying, the engineering, and all those things in those budgets. And then each year we add about 4% for escalation. So that's what you see, once you get to 2034, there's been 4% added on over those 10 years to, hopefully capture what's going to happen in the marketplace over the next 10 years, but who knows over the next 2 months what's going to happen. And then we also looked as it relates to the natural grass fields that may not need full renovation, just thinking about annual field maintenance, which covers thatch removal, core aeration, deep tines, top dressing, overseeding, and fertilization. So these costs are really if you're to bring an outsourced company in to come in and do all your maintenance for some of those athletic fields. And again, maintenance budget numbers, if it goes down the road where Adam or the town says, hey, we need to talk to a company or two, get some real numbers, this is a good place to start, and then we actually get true numbers for, the square foots and things of that nature. So tried going fairly brief to respect time, but can certainly answer any questions or comments anyone has about the presentation, the packet, or anything else from the study.
All right, open it up for discussion.
We need to buy lottery tickets.
Well, the good ones.
It's in the budget already.
I would love to do all of that work, and boy, oh boy, your numbers here today, next year at this time are gonna be even higher.
Probably.
I'm not sure how cities and towns can do all of this work and make all these parks really nice, and I think the only thing that we'd have on the docket to do is the maintenance and redoing the grass fields and I mean, it's awful playing soccer on a junk field, you know, but I know the high school needs a new football field, and it's like $1 million, and they already have a turf field.
Yeah, can you talk about, like your sort of coordination with the schools?
So what we end up doing, I'm going to go to the previous presentation, just one of the slides in, so I'm just going to skip through it quick. So the only part of the study that related to the high school, and this was based on the RFP where we were specifically looking at these facilities. Yeah. So one of the things we did as far as the field usage is take a look at, you know, from a tracking standpoint, how does your community look as it relates to level of service for Park and Rec. So National Park and Rec Association has sort of a level of service based on your population. So on this slide, you know, for a population of around 20,000 residents, you know, on the top slide, this says, okay, the bottom slide says, you know, this is sort of the recommended number of playgrounds, basketball courts, tennis courts you should have for your 20,000 population. When we looked at the 6 facilities only, you weren't hitting any of the recommendations. You were close on some of them, but weren't necessarily hitting them. When we looked at, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to move something on here. When we looked at including all the school facilities, the items in green were ones that either you achieved or were in excess of, and you can see a lot of these numbers got a little bit tighter. So we were only tasked with looking at the 6 park and rec facilities, not necessarily the schools, but we looked at the level of service just to understand as a town, knowing that people are able to use the school facilities on off hours, you're a little bit closer to what you're trying to achieve from a population standpoint.
Does the NRPA recommendations typically include school facilities?
They look at as town-owned facilities. So every town's a little bit different, right? Some towns take care of the school maintenance for the actual school systems. Park and Rec sometimes does that for school properties, even though they don't own the schools. Sometimes the schools are handling it. So when NRPA looks at this, they look at just town-wide sort of accounting for the number of facilities you have. They don't necessarily distinguish between, okay, you need to have this many for the school versus this many for, you know, general park and rec use.
Okay. So, I mean, it looks like we're actually doing pretty good in terms of the number of different facilities we have, except for a couple areas. What is that?
Yeah, so for instance, like tennis, right? They sort of recommend 6. You're at 5, so you're one off, and obviously that's at the high school. And you know, the 5 is probably when you did the school project. You need 5 to host a match, even though, you know, it'd be great to have 6, 7, or 8. But when you have other things you're trying to achieve at the school, so you know, there's reasons to explain some of these, obviously. But the goal of this portion of the site was just to figure out, when we looked at the 6 facilities, you know, we told Adam, wow, you're way off. But when you incorporate the schools and look at it from a town-wide perspective, not just the 6 facilities, you're in a much better spot, and you're, you know, in certain instances better than some other towns, than other, you know, obviously shy a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
I will, if I might, Mr. Chair. So on tennis courts, for example, because I play tennis, there's only 1 court outside of the schools. And then the schools are used, you know, Monday to Friday. So there is 1, but
Yep.
that's all.
Yep.
And I have a question. The Lions Club, does Recreation take care of that or no? So even though soccer's playing there, you guys don't do any maintenance? They do.
We don't maintain that property.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr.
Mr. Jefferson.
I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate how detailed and thorough the report was, and you know, really spelled out actionable, specific items that we can, you know, at least consider, even if we don't necessarily have the budget for them currently. It did a really good job of outlining what we do have for assets, and I found it to be an enjoyable read. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Chair, if you don't mind, so, you know, one of the things that will eventually come out of this, we haven't gotten to this point on the report, but sort of how you figure out the prioritization, right? Because there's a lot of work to do in how we figure that out. And there's multiple different ways to think about it. You know, some communities will look at and say, okay, let's look at, you know, let's say you have the 6 parks, well, let's hit this park first and this park second. Some communities say, you know, something, ADA is probably the most important thing, which is what a lot of communities are doing. Let's hit the ADA and then look at some of those other improvements. So I don't think there's a wrong or right way to do it. I think probably between now and the final report, we'll talk with Park and Rec a little bit to just figure out, whether we actually put in the report, this is how you should handle it, at least say this is a few different ways you can handle it. And then that's when the community sort of takes a look at the information, figures out the best way to move forward.
Sorry, one more thing.
Yeah.
What I didn't notice, I know, so I was involved in getting the Riverview Park going, and that was probably like 15 or so more years ago, and that's outside of Broad Meadow. That's probably the last time we did any new fields. So, one of the biggest problems over many years is just resting a field, and we don't have the capacity to do that since we lost Wyman Gordon. So there's nothing in here about, potential adding fields, correct? We're just looking at what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of, I think we'll look at this because it sort of doesn't get tricky, but you can look at it in a few different ways, right? So I'll go to the maintenance slide. So right now, when you look at the 6 facilities, 5 of the 6 are at level 6 or greater based on their hours. So some of the thought process is, okay, if these are all going to stay natural grass, what maintenance can we handle? So for instance, let's say we're trying to achieve level 3 maintenance. So that means you can only, put 240, 280 hours a year on those facilities. You back that out and say, okay, we're shy 1,000 hours, which means we need 3 new fields or 4 new fields. So part of that equation is figuring out from a maintenance standpoint, and that's when we look at natural grass. And then obviously if you do say, okay, well, is there consideration for synthetic turf? Then that's just man hours with or without lights because it just doesn't need any rest, So, and again, right or wrong answer for certain people. We're working with the town of Belmont right now, and they are landlocked, and there's no place to put fields, and they're shy 10, 12 fields, So where they're in a situation where they may have to say, okay, maybe synthetic is right because we just don't have the capacity. The town like Grafton, there's more room to potentially consider, along with all the other, constraints you have as it relates to getting this into budgets with everything else you have going on. So not a perfect answer, but that it's you work with, that there's a sort of a happy medium depending on how you shake out the information.
Thanks for the Tylenol.
You're welcome.
Well, the report was great. Thanks so much for the work. Appreciate it. And Adam, I look forward to at some point in the relative near future seeing some kind of long-term plan for, obviously we can't afford all of this all at the same time, but doesn't mean we can't get started somewhere.
I'll start with the lottery tickets first.
There you go.
There you go.
Not a bad place to start. Thanks so much for coming in.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the Open Space and Rec Committee's parcel prioritization project.
Alliteration.
Good evening.
If you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, that'd be great.
3 minutes.
I'll try my best. All right.
All right. Our full and complete statement. Read the material in your packet. Write up your questions and we'll answer them later.
Dave, you can't do that.
Sorry, bear with me for 1 second.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
No, this isn't. Well, while that's loading, good evening, members of the board, Mr. Chair, thank you for having us this evening. We're very excited to present to you this evening our open space parcel prioritization project. It's a lot of P's there. So I'll just give an overview of the project, how we got here, and, planned next steps. And then I'm going to turn over all of the, granular logistics to CMRPC. Matt Franz is here this evening, joining us on Zoom, and he's the GIS wizard at CMRPC who helped us develop this amazing tool. So just to start, so I applied for district local technical assistance through CMRPC, which is a program that's offered twice a year for communities to take advantage of. This was something that it was a recommendation in our open space and recreation plan to really examine what areas in town we can prioritize for recreation, open space, passive and active, and just kind of how can we uphold and maintain our cherished open spaces and create connections between them. So following, noticing that in the open space recreation plan and then putting in the application, we were awarded $5,000 for CMRPC to undertake the work. So with that, we worked with them closely to develop a set of deliverables in conjunction with the Open Space and Recreation Committee. The deliverables include a detailed methodology, which is in the packet, a set of Excel results with all of the GIS data that we're currently working on integrating with AppGeo, so that you'll be able to see the results in real time on our town GIS, which is very exciting, as well as a map of the scores of the parcels based on the criteria, and we also have a project page which has a list of deliverables, but those are the main ones. So with that, we were able to kind of examine, obviously the data, we've had discussions since this has been approved with folks from the Grafton Land Trust and some modifications that we can make, but the baseline parameters are there. The criteria, the ranking criteria that we established in conjunction with the Open Space and Recreation Committee is what we believe, we should prioritize, and it includes anything from proximity to other open spaces to availability of parking, what have you. There's a series there that's also in the meeting materials. So that was how we did the math on the scores. So when you see the map, which I'll pull up if my laptop decides to cooperate.
Do you want me to show the map because I can share it to Zoom?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
I have it open as well.
Yeah. So, sorry, I feel like I'm rambling on a little bit, but essentially this summary report and the deliverables will be available to the public. They'll be posted on our webpage, and folks can use it to make, the town will obviously use it to make policy decisions. For example, if Chapter 61A land becomes available and we get the right of first refusal, we can use this tool to see how a particular parcel scored based on the data, and use it to make informed decisions. And also, with this data being available to the public, folks like the Grafton Land Trust can also use it, download it, and make policy decisions on their end. We want to be able to share this information. It's all publicly available data through Mass GIS, the Assessor's Office, etc. And yeah, we're quite proud of it, and I think CMRPC did a wonderful job. And I'm going to stop rambling now, and I'm going to hand it over to Matt, who is the wizard behind all of this. So, Matt, I believe you should be able to share your screen.
Yep,
William might need to.
I'll stop sharing, and he should be able to go.
Yeah, I have a share option. Thank you so much, Fiona. Hello, my name is Matt Franz. I'm the JS analyst, as Fiona mentioned, CMRPC. Let me start up a share here, and I will bring up my stuff. All right, so I'm just going to basically run through some of the deliverables that we provided to the town. The first thing you're seeing on here is the criteria list. And this is what we discussed with the Open Space and Recreation Committee in terms of how we were going to score the parcels that we used. During the discussion, we basically broke it down into 3 tier levels. Tier 1 being obviously sort of the most important out of all of them. So we had proximity to other protected open space, endangered wildlife habitat, environmental protection potential, and proximity to Zone 2 and IWPA wellhead protection areas. And then we had a Tier 2, which was proximity to other unprotected open space, ease of access trails, proximity to land owned by the town of Grafton, and historical value. And then finally, there was a Tier 3, which was ease of access to public parking, ease of access to roads, the development potential of the parcel, and proximity to public access easements. And then there was an additional piece on here that was mainly just for flag purposes, which was structure status. So using the MassGIS structure data, basically flagging the parcel that there could be some kind of structure or structures on there. So for each of these tier levels, we applied a weight score to it as well. So Tier 1's got 3 points, Tier 2's got 2, and then for Tier 1's, they had 1 point for the criteria weights. And then within each of the criterias, we had sub-criterias relating to how additional scoring of each of these. So like, let me go back up here, like proximity to other protected open space. So there was abutting multiple protected open space parcels, and that had a score value of 1. Abutting one protected open space property, score value of 0.75. Other protected open space properties within quarter mile, 0.25, and then anything beyond the quarter mile didn't get any score. So we did this with all the different tier levels. Each of them had a max value of 1 in terms of sort of the highest it could go. And then having that those criteria values, we were then able to take that back to our office and basically develop a process within our GIS software to sort of score those parcels that we were looking at in terms of open space potential. And that involved using different process within the GIS, such as selecting features within a certain distance, whether they intersected, whether running an analysis to see how many of these parcels, say, like in the case of proximity to other protected open space, abut another open space, and is it just one or is it more than one? And then a combination of different things like that for each of these tier criteria that we were looking at. Once the GIS was run, we had sort of our initial results, and there was a field representing each of these tiers. We then took that data and joined it to basically extract the assessor data. And taking those two joint features, we then pulled that out and brought it into an Excel file, which was one of the other deliverables we provided. Within this Excel file, you have the criteria scores tab, which is basically that same sheet that we just looked at, has the different criterias on there and the different weight scores and the different sort of rank values on there. And then within this parcel scores tab, this is where we brought in the GIS analysis piece of it. So everything basically from this 110 assess prop ID and scrolling all the way to the right here to this TaxOS structure thing is our fields from the GIS data and the analysis that we ran into there. And you can see in here some of these fields right here. These are sort of those criteria fields that I was mentioning where we coded it. So proximity to OS. So, if there's a single protected open space next on this one, there's protected open space within 0.25 and all the different coding on here. Once we brought this in, we did, our next step was to add some additional sets of columns in here. So the first set column that we did is basically a column representing the different sub-criteria scores on here. So we score T1.1 and T1.2. These represent the different criteria tiers. So T1 is tier 1, and then item number 1, proximity to other open space. And this is the way these work is a series of formulas. Sorry. Mainly a lot of if-then statements, basically looking at, okay, so like in this case, this is the proximity to other protected open space. It's looking at the proximity to open space field from the GIS and saying, okay, if it is coded as POS, give it a 0.75 value. If it's coded as, I forget what the other, let's see. Let me find that. My field. POS 25, then give it a 0.25. And so we repeated this process for each of the criterias, and that's what all these black-headed columns are. And then once that was done, we created another set of columns for the weighted scores. And these are a much simpler Excel format. It's just basically saying, okay, we'll grab the score T1.1 and take that value and multiply it by the weighted score, and that gives you the score value within here. And then finally, once all those were done, here we go. We had a final score value, which is basically just a summary of all the weighted score columns, and then that flag field saying, okay, is there a possible structure here? So once we had all this done, this is set up in a table format so you can sort on all these columns here. So if you wanted to see based on address, you could sort by address, you could sort by parcel ID, you could sort by the final score. And an additional interactive piece on this is, we have our weighted scores and rank values right now, but you can go into this, and if you wanted to do hypotheticals, or maybe you don't, something's changed and you're like, you know what, we don't want a max score of 1, we want it to be 1.5 or 2 or whatever. You can change the values on these rank values and the criteria, and it's going to go and automatically update in the weighted scores and the criteria score tabs as well. So it will adjust the point values as you adjust the values within the criteria scores tab. So it gives some flexibility there and sort of adapting, allowing you to play some hypotheticals or changes on that. So once we did that piece, we took all this information that's in the Excel and brought it back into GIS so that we could then create that map that was being shown earlier. And let me move my... There we go. So this is, you saw this earlier, this is basically just the parcels that we looked at being scored based on that final score volume, and it's being broken down into 4-point values here, 2.5 to 6.25, and then so forth, 6.25, all the way up to the 21.25. And then the scoring is being labeled on the map as well. But as they were saying, it's all in GIS and everything, so you can bring this into other online GIS systems. You can use it within GIS. Dave even used the data to make some additional maps that are also on the open space priority page that they've set up. Top 20, top map, top 15, top tier, and so forth. So yeah, and that's a quick rundown. And you can go into the nitty-bitty stuff on the GIS side, but I'm happy to if you have questions about it, or you want me to get into the nitty-bitty stuff.
No, Matt, that's okay.
You mean we haven't been there already?
I thought we were there the whole time.
Wow, we were.
It gets more detailed.
Matt could go into a lot more detail if you want, but
yes, we could go on for a while, but you get the gist.
I would expect to see eyes completely glazing over at that point.
Yes.
So the long story short, we want to buy the red stuff.
Yeah, I mean, yes, the highest ranking, with the symbology is organized. So yeah, you can tell, which ones are the highest priority based on the color, and the red and orange are the highest ranking. But it's fun and it's cool because you can as Matt was explaining, it's available and you can change the weighted scores, and then that will update the results in real time. So it's something that the public can use too. To present to select board or to planning board or whomever, say, this, there was an instance, I believe, when we were speaking to the Grafton Land Trust, but parking was actually available on a couple of sites that we, it was a couple of spaces that we just missed over, but we could go in and update the score, and then that would reflect, and then that parcel score would go up. And we can update this map later on as well through GIS ourselves, or if we wanted to expand on this at a later date. But I think this lays a really nice foundation for us going forward to be able to make informed decisions and work with Open Space and Recreation Committee, Trails Committee, Grafton Land Trust, CPC, whomever, to just have this at our disposal and be able to apply for other grants or be able to talk to landowners, private landowners, or whomever to secure land for the town that we can use for open space. So that's the goal. And I think, I want to thank Matt again for all of his hard work. We really couldn't have done it without you. I can't underscore that enough. And Dave as well. And Dave, some of the samples that Matt was talking about, Dave just created some markups of individual maps where he just took the top 15 ranked parcels and then made his own map. So
Yeah.
That should be on the project page as well. I'm having issues.
I think we have it in the package.
Yeah, you have it in
Yeah,
your
you
packet
got-
anyway,
yeah.
but you can see how you can use the data in different ways. So
Yeah, you've got a lot of stuff in the packet that you can look at. Important to note that these numbers are not magic. They're not the answer to every question. For example, here's the top tier, the top, the top. The ones that Matt had in his map in red, this map shows only those. The largest red parcel there, if you recognize that map and you can identify that parcel, that the largest red parcel there is Tufts. The reason it was included in the analysis at all was solely because of the existence of state hospital structures on the Mass Historic Inventory. So one of the criteria for inclusion of parcels for this analysis, the summary, I kind of summarized some of that in that's the summary. You see it in your packet too, the one I gave to the planning board. But what parcels do we analyze here? There were a total of 958 unique parcels analyzed, and various reasons for including them. Tufts was included for no reason other than the fact that there are a lot of historic structures. But including that parcel now, it turns out to be, from some of the other criteria, proximity to open space and habitat and various other properties, it ranks high. Mm-hmm. Although it's probably not likely that we'll be considering acquisition of the Tufts parcel, and you kind of when you look at the results here for any given parcel, you want to drill down to that. Just because it's red, well, what does that mean? Why was it classified as red? And understanding that is going to be helpful in making any actual decisions. So you just don't go just by the point score without looking more deeply into the details of what it is. But the point score is sort of a hint that says this looks like it might be a good candidate for acquisition or for protection by means other than acquisition. Sometimes there are some town-owned parcels that show up in this, and they show up. We analyze them because they're not currently permanently protected. There may be some hints there as to maybe we should take some town-owned land and place it under control of Concom. And this can be helpful in making decisions like that. Or we may identify some land that we don't want to buy it, but maybe we need to arrange a conservation restriction, or maybe we need to twist the land trust arm and talk them into buying it. And what's on the screen now is an example of what I've done with my GIS app on my computer. And this is an example of what Fiona's working with AppGeo to see if we can't incorporate something like this into our, the town's GIS. I click, this shows you click on one parcel and you'll get a screen that says this is why the parcel was included for analysis, and this is how it's scored on the various criteria. So looking at, and you can get that same information off the spreadsheet, but it can be convenient to click on it on a map. But either way, this is the kind of information that can help you understand what does this really mean for us. Mm-hmm. It's all as an aid in making decisions. I always want to emphasize that the scoring of a parcel, the appearance of a parcel in this analysis and the score does not represent any kind of a commitment on the part of the town to acquire or otherwise do anything with the parcel. Right. I know I've talked to some people who are worried about that. Well, we're going to put, this is a list now. This says everything on this list or everything in red the town's going to want to buy. Well, that's no.
Yeah, right.
That's
right.
not the intent of this exercise.
Very useful information should chapter land come before the board to say, do we want to exercise our right? We've done the analysis, so here are those hints, right?
Right.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Big takeaways, Dave Robbins wants to buy Tufts. That should be the headline.
I've got $10 in my pocket. I think they take that.
We'll do well with negotiations.
Yeah, exactly.
If I might, Mr. Chair, jump in.
Ms. Foley, come on in.
So having served on the Open Space and Rec Commission, I just wanted to say, or committee, for a lot of folks in town who are advocates for open space, this is just such a great tool. So I think if I had had this a few years ago, when I was joining forces with a few folks looking at Pleasant Street, that might have been something that this would have been helpful for. And I think to your point, like going forward, just to have a more concrete documentation of why we might like this property versus not. And I also just want to thank Fiona for getting this grant and for CMRPC, because being on that committee, I don't know how long it would have taken us to get here. So it really was helpful and steered us, and we had the committee had a lot of input still. So thank you for the grant, and thank you to CMRPC, and I'm excited that we have this tool now.
Yeah, let me take this moment to second that. When I looked at this particular action item in the open space and rec plan, I thought, yeah, it's a nice idea. How do I go about it? And I really, it would have taken me a lot of time to maybe come up with something somewhat comparable to what this project did, but they did it. They came up with and I don't know if I would have ever come up with something like this. I think I'm very appreciative of the work that went into this, the opportunity that Fiona saw to grab onto this and go with it. And yeah, we've got something I think is good here. There are things we can think about doing with this in the future, but that's maybe for another discussion sometime.
Right.
Great.
Any other questions?
Well, I just wanted to say quickly, thank you so much for the compliments. I appreciate it, and it was a pleasure, and I really enjoyed working on this project. It was a good sort of thinking project to sort of hash out and go through all these criteria. Once we got the list of criteria, to have to try to think and go, well, how are we going to do that in GIS, and what's the best way to take this approach? And sometimes you go down one route and opens up something else on there, and you're like, well, wait, I have to take this into account. So this was one of the more interesting ones that I've done in a while. So I really enjoyed this one quite a bit. So thank you for having us do it.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to approve the parcel prioritization project as presented.
Second.
I have a motion.
Is there a name for that? Is that
Second.
alliteration?
That is alliteration for sure.
Sorry. Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Before you guys take off, this is terrific. I think it's really great. Land use and land use priorities are obviously one of the most important activities that towns are engaging in now. I think I would be interested in seeing if we overlaid this with an analysis of where the potential commercial development is and where the potential affordable housing is as well.
Yeah, that's a good point to keep in mind too, that we undertook this specifically from the perspective of open space and recreation. We know full well that there are other potential land uses that are important to the town, from commercial space, and this is sort of includes recreation, but it's really there's no part of it that's really focused just on recreation. In the previous presentation, you heard a little bit about, well, what about future recreation needs? That project, and I participated in that a little bit too, and that was really focused on our current recreation facilities and what do we come up with for dealing with current recreation facilities? And that's kind of important to maintain what you have before you go out and do something new. But there's sort of the next step after that for rec is really to focus on where else do we need recreation facilities in town. We touch on that in the master plan, so covering a lot of different topics here. Yeah. But the point I wanted to make with respect to this is that if we could come up with some similar, we've got other, I was starting to list out other things that don't really fall into this. It's commercial development, residential development, different kinds of residential land use. Where do we direct future residential development? There is additional town facilities that town may need to expand its own facilities. Someday in the future, depending on how things go, we might need to build a new school. Right now that looks very far in the future, and it's not really on our radar yet, but you never know. There are other land uses that need to be considered similar to this.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to mention those other potential land uses. Those are really important. Just a couple last things. can we just move forward with putting conservation restrictions or turning land over, like stewardship over to the land trust or conservation for the ones that are like the, I don't know, low hanging fruit that might have been?
The easiest thing to do is to take existing town-owned land
Yeah.
that's not currently restricted and place it under, just town meeting can just vote to place.
Sure,
it
my
under
question
control
is,
of town.
can we just do that now?
That we could.
Why wouldn't we do that?
Well, you would look at each individual parcel of land that looks promising from this perspective.
Yeah, of course.
And you would want to look at, does that land have value for other purposes?
Sure.
But
Yeah,
if you looked at those town-owned parcels that rank highly here, and you were able to conclude that conservation is the right destination for that, yeah, that's a town meeting vote. Simple.
Yeah, it just it seems like that process could start anytime really. Now that we have this analysis, given we obviously would need to resource it. But.
Yeah, it's not that simple because Grafton has a history of not recording land or recording land properly.
Okay.
So there is some of that before you can just go and have a town meeting vote. We need to make sure that we've acquired it correctly, processed it correctly, the deed recorded correctly, all those different criteria. We have a stack in my office of things that we're working through.
Just throw Rob Aberg at it.
Mm-hmm.
He loves
So,
that title.
so the problem is that
There's no title issue he has not been able to figure out.
Okay. So, but we are feeding those to council in a measured way so that we can afford to do that work.
I see.
But yes, the ultimate goal is to get all of our legal issues, make sure that they're clear on the property, and then go to town meeting and vote to put it in conservation.
In the course of developing the open space inventory back in 2020 for the updated open space and rec plan, I dug through a lot of as many records as I could find, old town meeting minutes, registry of deeds records. So I have a collection of documents that basically convinced me that some of these parcels are owned by the town and they are or are not properly placed under Concom control. The Article 97 inventory I developed is based on that. So having council confirm the town's ownership of these parcels, the owner, and then once that's confirmed, then yes, it's a town meeting vote to place it under Concom control.
Yeah, it's a tool in our arsenal to be able to forward those initiatives. Obviously, we need to make sure we're checking all the legal boxes. But yeah, we could definitely, we'll be able to use this to our advantage.
Got it. Last question, I promise. Do other towns have programs where they can proactively reach out to some of the parcel owners to give them incentives or make it more attractive, or even get them thinking about donating land to the town, similar to what the Ingvalds did on North Street? That is turning out to be a really good project, funded by CPC and all that. I think that was a really good partnership. Is there something that we could initiate to sort of indicate to landowners that this would be a good thing to think about in terms of creating a legacy for the land that they have that might be important to us?
We could probably do, if I remember correctly, in the 2001 master plan, one of the recommendations was something along those lines. We may even have mentioned something along those lines in the open space and rec plan update a few years ago. But we don't have it. We currently don't have a formal program. Right. We have the idea is on record.
Yeah, no, sure, and I know that there are a lot of informal discussions going on.
That is a large part of it as well. But
right.
But Matt, maybe from some of your work in some of the other Central Mass communities, if they have a program like that. And I don't know off the top of my head.
They do.
I don't know off the top of my head either, but if anybody would know, my guess would be Trish might have an idea if she's heard. So
Evan said yes.
They could ask her.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for towns to create a list and then reach out to the landowners and say, have you considered making this either selling it now or moving it as a donation or protecting it in some way and allowing the public to have access to it? Because there's that public-private partnership route as well to getting things protected.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there are.
I'd just like to make it as easy as possible, and to just, to the extent we can, just plant the seeds, because it might be 10 years from now, but if they've been thinking about that and, you know, rather than it just go in the direction of being sold or, you know, developed or whatever, that at least it's in people's minds and we have some kind of plan to make it relatively straightforward so people know what their options are.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good suggestion. Yeah, I'll talk to Trish too and Evan. I think that's good.
I'll just talk to Trish.
Okay, fair enough. I bug you enough as it is.
Thanks. Anything else from the board?
Nope.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Great work, everybody.
Thank you
that's
so
a great
much.
School.
It was interesting.
Excited. Yes. I don't want to hear the acronym GIS for a while. Just kidding.
Matt, next time I have an
it's not
Excel
that
problem,
bad.
I'm going to call you.
Yeah, there's cool pivot tables in there too. We didn't go into that detail, but it's there.
Oh
Very
yeah,
fun.
I got
For
the
another
pivot
meeting.
tables.
So much fun data that we can play with.
Pivot tables are so cool.
Great.
All right. Next up, we have we will consider a vote to turn over operations of the 3 Worcester Street old fire station to the school department. And I will just open it up for conversation. I know a couple board members did field trips, so maybe you guys want to update us on that and talk through it.
I went. I guess I'll go.
I
We both
went.
went.
I conquered. That was the whole.
I went. I saw.
I conquered.
Okay, so last Friday morning, myself, Andy Jefferson, and Evan Broussard visited 3 Worcester Street, and Frank Rothwell was our host and our guide. And you know, just to start, whoever's watching, listening, should know that Frank has done a really nice job of taking care of the building. I visited the building a few times. I peeked in. I didn't take the extensive tour that we took this past Friday, but the work that he's doing is it's pretty solid work. He's moved it. I wouldn't want to sleep there.
What kinds of stuff is he doing?
He's taking all of the garbage and throwing it out and repurposing that garbage, whatever's not garbage, and placing it in different rooms on different shelves. So for an example, there's a belts room, like belts on a lawnmower or a car.
Okay.
There's lots of different belts or car parts, auto parts. There's another space for signs around town like yield or stop or whatever. There's another room with shelves for paint and all kinds of accessories. So the work that he's doing is he's making sense out of it, which is really, really good. And some of the exterior is cleaned up so it looks nicer than it did for the public. It's a spot that's in the center of town, and obviously, it's probably an eyesore, if you could call it that. And it needs some improvements, but he's talking about doing some things that will try to address some of those things in the front of the building, make it look a little bit nicer. Those vines that were growing all over the side, the ivy, he's found a way to kill that. It's still in there, and we found some things growing through windows or kind of trying to grow through windows. So, that's the good news. The bad news is it did take a while to get to this point, which, it would have been probably a little bit nicer. So, but he is definitely pretty focused. He and his team are very focused on making it as as nice as it can, considering it's old. I mean, that I would not want to. I'm a camper. I wouldn't sleep. I wouldn't go in there. So for long periods of time. So it's
1957 is
so more cleaning and more reclamation needs to be done, and I have confidence that he'll do it. And I guess I'm saying that because he's taken it upon himself. That didn't happen before he got here, and he's done a great job, and the town should recognize that. So I certainly appreciate that, and everybody. I think most people know that there's been some discussion about knocking that building down, and I'm an advocate for doing that and building more parking spaces. That's also full disclosure, but recognizing that there's not an appetite for that. There is a compromise that's on the table where we have these lines drawn and we can add a half a dozen, 18 parking spaces. Frank's done a nice job, and his team done a nice job cleaning it up. And that feels pretty good to me. On the passing it over for operations, I don't understand exactly what that means. So I'm interested to hear more about the discussion about that. As far as everything else I just said, he's done a really good job. And I'm glad that I went. I know there was some conversation about moving quickly, but I'm glad that we went because I learned a ton about it and I appreciate the work that's being done.
Well, thanks for the update. Appreciate it. Anything you wanted to say, Andy?
No, I mean, that was very encompassing, to, I think, answer your question a little bit more. You know, he's, not only have they removed clutter from the facility and done a good job of cataloging and organizing, they removed clutter from the schools, you know, things you might not necessarily think of, but like the battery backups for emergency lighting, that just kind of get thrown in the corner of a closet and left there for ages. You know, they're reclaiming all that stuff back to the station, so that it can be properly recycled. You know, and talked about moving some of the other additional, I think, like woodworking and fabrication equipment from one of the current spaces over there. They currently have, you know, a metal shop area where they do that. They service the school department vehicles there. Yeah, you know, even just stopping by in the last 6 months or so, you can really see the effort that's been put into cleaning up that parcel. You know, and as we walked around, we kind of all identified different things that, you know, could use sprucing up here and there, you know, in various degrees of repair, you know, from new lighting plates here and there to, you know, maybe having the DPW come down and scrape out some of the roots and stuff that are there. So Frank was a great host. It was, you know, I like our field trip scenario. It's good to get out there and you know, get a walk through and yeah, that's where I'm at.
Did anyone want to talk about just turnover of the operations piece?
Yeah, I mean, the reason that I put that into the motion is that the school department will take over operations of the building, not the building, okay, but everything that happens on the inside of that building. They're going to renovate it, they're gonna put new doors on it, they're gonna do all of this stuff. It's just a word, but that's part of it. They take over the operations of the building. We don't do anything. In other words, municipal government doesn't do anything to that building anymore. It's all operated by the school department.
Any other comments?
I'll riff off that.
Sure.
To that point, and it was something I tried to touch on our last meeting when we discussed it. Part of the limbo that building has kind of fallen into, that's led to some of the disrepair, is you know, from the school committee's perspective, or from the school department's perspective, I should say, a seemingly lack of commitment from the town, in the feeling that at any moment they could be asked to move their equipment from there for whatever purpose, because it is still, in their eyes, a municipal facility. So this, you know, I feel like if anything, you know, whether we want to label it a more symbolic action, it's just reaffirming our commitment to the school that this will be their place to stay, and you know, authorizing them to finally, you know, invest some capital into that building, of course, as we plan that out, and strategically and responsibly, all those things, but, you know, really allow them to put some time and effort into that facility now.
Mr. Chair,
Made.
I move that the board vote to turn over operations of
Hang on, just, go ahead.
You cut me off right
I'll
there.
do it in discussion. Go ahead.
Well, that's why I'm just bringing it up to
All right.
put it under discussion. I move that the board will vote to turn over operations of 3 Worcester Street to the school department and instruct the town administrator to have the highway department create parking spaces on the existing lot. When and if the school department decides that they no longer need the building, the operations of that building will revert back to the select board.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion?
I had an alternate motion as well.
Let's talk about this one first.
Okay.
It's all right. So I just wanted to say quickly, I did touch base with Dr. Cummings. He had 2 basic comments, which was it would be helpful to the schools to have that. It is just a word, sort of turning over operations, but
Yeah, it is.
to have a signal from the town that they're going to, you know, that they're going to be there in the short and medium term, and that they don't need to make other plans. And the other thing that he said is essentially they don't have any other place to go. So, you know, this is kind of their only place right now to have these operations. So,
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. we can't afford to knock the building down. We currently use it, and we can't afford to build another building. We can't afford to build a parking lot. So let's do the option of give them the building, they get to use it like they have been using it. It's not a vacant building, like they have been using it, and we create parking.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
mean,
well said.
that's, you know, I mean, I have no idea how many parking spaces you could create if you knock that building down. I know I did a quick drawing showing lot lines and the setbacks and everything like that, and we got 22 spaces out of it, and the building's gone. So, you know, we're gonna get 16 or 18, whatever it was, I can't remember which one it was. If we took the tree down, we'd get another 4, but
Well,
I don't wanna take the tree down, but
You wouldn't get any
I'm not
more
gonna-
parking.
Well,
I don't wanna
debate
take the tree down.
I think that ship has sailed on knocking the building down. I think that, I felt like Matt was gonna say that. I don't think that's on the table anymore. So, and I think the compromise is the new spots, the painted lines to create spots, and wayfinding signs to share with the public that they can park there. So that's probably on the table. The question I would have is, when you say give them the building, so now, is this now, this is owned by the school?
No.
The town gives the building to the school, or we're just
See,
saying?
the
these-
word operations, so we're just turning the inside of the building over to the school department. The building is still a municipal building. We're just turning over the operations of that building to the school.
It's kind of what's happening.
It is.
It's what's happening now, yeah.
Yeah.
We're just making it, we're telling the school department, it's your building for as long as you want it.
I think the difference
Have at
is
it.
that
Take care of it.
for a pretty long time, the characterization of it was, hey, the town's doing the schools a big favor. And now it's just not a favor anymore. It's just what it is.
Right.
So this is the plan.
You are now required to take care of it.
That's right. Because they have been sort of waffling a little bit with not feeling like this was their permanent home for this
Yep.
use. So they didn't really want to invest a lot of time and money into it, as you'd imagine, if they were going to be moving somewhere else. So I think this is more just formalizing an agreement that we had in place already.
As the kids say, putting a ring on it.
There you go. Put a ring on it. Anne Marie, did you want to talk through your alternate motion just before we vote on it?
Well, I'd like to comment for sure. So they've been using it for like 10 years. It's not like it's something that here, you can use it for a little while and good luck. So it's been a long time. But I wanted to, in my motion, make it clear that, yes, the school department can continue to utilize and maintain the building I can read it, but I just wanted to have a caveat in terms of that the ownership and the future use potentially of that building would be under the purview of the select board.
Mine says the exact same thing, only in different words.
Yes, so mine, I basically was thinking I'd move the board, again, the beginning of it can be similar, but I just wanted, I guess the bottom line for me is the latter part of what I'm thinking is that to make it clear that the ownership of the building and decisions regarding the future of the building would still remain under the purview of the select board. Because that, to me, again, this came up, I don't see how this is different than what's going on right now, other than I see what you're saying, like making it a little bit more formal for them, but I just want to make sure that it's still our building and that we still have control over it in the event that at some point we want to do something else about it. I wasn't in favor of knocking it down. P.S. This doesn't have anything to do with that. It's just purely for me, the semantics of making sure that that's in there. If we're truly making a formal motion to do something with this building.
Yeah, if you're both saying the same thing.
Well, no, we're not both saying the same thing. Because Anne Marie's is that the board controls the building, and that a future board could say, we want you out. And that's not what mine says. Mine says that when and if the school department decides that they no longer need the building, it will revert back to the select board. Not that the select board can, 5 years from now, or 2 years from now, or a year from now, say, by the way, get out, we're gonna knock the building down and build a parking lot.
Yep,
So that's, when the school department's done using it, comes back to the board makes a decision what to do with it.
Just what happens if someone comes in and says, I want to buy the building?
Well, we wouldn't sell the building. Sell a townhouse, but we wouldn't sell a building.
We wouldn't sell that building. If somebody wanted to buy it.
I doubt that would ever fly. to buy
Well-
the building, I'm not sure, even sure what you do with it.
We're not creating legislation here.
No, we're not,
Right.
it's,
This,
you know,
this is a board motion, so, I think if that opportunity, I hear what you're saying, Mark, and I hear what you're saying, Anne Marie. I wouldn't wanna necessarily limit the select board's authority in this matter, but this motion doesn't do that, in my opinion. We're not creating a bylaw which says that, you know, the select board owns the building and
Right.
like exclusive control over the full, you know, future direction of it, or we're not. To me, the intention of Ray's motion is the right one, which is we're handing it over to the school for now. When they're done with it, they can come back to us, but nothing in the motion says that the select board can't make a decision. It doesn't.
select board can do anything that they want.
A future select board could rescind this
Sure.
motion if they wanted to.
Absolutely.
It's just a motion. So there's nothing legally binding to this, but I do think it's an important signal to the school. To me, the whole intention of it is that we're handing it over to the school. So we're saying that this is the intended use for the foreseeable future.
Right.
And there's no intention to change that use. So I think it's important to keep the language kind of with what
Can you read that
Ray
again?
was suggesting.
I move that the board vote to turn over operations of 3 Worcester Street to the school department and instruct the town administrator to have the highway department create parking spaces on the existing lot. When and if the school department decides that they no longer need the building, the operations will be reverted back to the select board.
I think that's the right one. Does anybody need more
I
discussion
don't
on it?
know. I don't know. I mean, I'm with you. I'm so with you, but it just feels like I want to give that attaboy to Frank, and I do want to offer that sense of, you know, longer term stability. But I do believe someone could come in and buy that building if they wanted to. And then what do we say? Well, we can't do that. We
You'd
can't.
have to go to town meeting.
If somebody was gonna come and buy the building,
Right.
presumably that would fund building another
Oh,
facility.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
Everything you do here is symbolic.
Right.
yes, everything.
You could vote at the next meeting to take it back,
Uh-huh.
but you're signaling to the committee and the school department that they have some stability and should put some money into the building to fix it up.
Yep.
Right.
And I think that's really important.
You can't sell it without town meeting. If somebody made an offer, you could certainly have a discussion about it at this level and make a decision to put that in front of the town.
And we could say, okay, we make a motion to now bring before the town a vote to sell this building.
Well,
Yeah,
you have
you'd
to go,
put-
you
you'd
have
put
to
it on
go
the
through
warrant.
30B, you have to go, there's a long process.
Yeah, it's a big
to go
thing,
through.
but yes, I don't see how this could ever legally bind you into not being able to entertain
Right.
any kind of future of that
Yep.
building. It's more about the symbolism, I think, of giving the school department stuck on that word, stability. If I'm hearing the
Somebody wants to give us
conversation
$5 million for that building, I'd be standing up
All right.
cheering at town meeting.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed?
Fully, no.
All right, so the motion carries 4-1. All right, next up we have, consider the establishment of a municipal facilities assessment committee. Over to you, Ray.
Yeah, so, you know, we had talked at our goals meeting about, you know, municipal facilities assessment, and Evan had said that, it was gonna cost about $250,000 to have a company come in and do it. And I suggested at that point that we create a committee to, with, you know, construction professionals, which, you know, we have many, we've had many on, I've appointed many to building committees. And that we do it as a committee, just like we do, you know, a lot of other stuff. And save the taxpayer $250,000 and put an assessment committee together and actually do the job. So, and we wouldn't account for school buildings, because Frank's doing that himself, so these would be all municipal buildings. To go in, assess the buildings, assess the properties, the mechanicals, everything right down the line, you know, and provide a report on each building of their current conditions. So that's what it is.
Okay.
No, I don't have a charge. I just have talking about it.
Yeah. Do you have an example?
I just gave you an example.
Are other towns in the area doing this?
Well, other towns may be doing this, but a lot of towns just hire people, like I said, $250,000 of that we don't have to do this, and it's really no different than a well, it is a little different is from a building committee, but you'd want the same people, the same professionals on a building committee.
Okay.
There's a lot of people in town. You know, there are architects and mechanical engineers and structural engineers and all kinds of people who would get on this committee and put together a good committee and, you know, do this work.
Okay.
And it's gonna take, you know, a year or so, or probably more to get it all done. But then the town would have an assessment of all of our buildings.
Yep. Okay. Any questions? Discussion. I guess for me, go ahead, Ms. Foley.
I was just gonna say, again, we talked about this in our goals meeting, and on the other board that I serve on, we have such a document, and it's a great tool. It doesn't necessarily mean that when, you know, municipal center roof goes in this year, and then we have a 20-year, 30-year projection for that. We don't have to do it at the 30 years necessarily, but it's a tool that we use there fairly extensively in terms of where are we, and then you can then use it in capital and, you know, planning and whatnot. So I think it's a good idea, and if we have the resources without spending money to do it, because we did hire someone to do that for us, but I think that this came up at our previous goals meeting too, 2 years ago, and it was you, Ray, asking about just that, like, what's going on with the schools? How do we know when we're going to need an HVAC system or a roof or what have you? So at least we could do this on the municipal side.
Yeah. Okay. So, did you want to put together a charge and we can talk about it at a future meeting?
Yeah, I'll put together
I'm
a
open
charge.
to the idea of it. My concern is that it would take. It's a big scope of work.
It is.
There's a reason those guys get paid well, and timing wise, it would go a lot quicker. Obviously, we paid somebody to do it, but I'm open to the idea if we could get it's just a matter of getting the right people with the amount of time required to actually do that, and to do it in a systemic, rigorous way, so that the sort of deliverable, if you will, or the output of the committee is going to be of significant use to the town. So that's my main concern is, it seems like a ton of work, but
it is.
But yeah, so I think just put together a charge and we'll talk about it again.
Okay.
All right, awesome. Let's see, we have the warrants for the part-time animal control officer.
Mr. Chair?
Ms.
Are we
Foley.
talking about this or no? I move the board vote to approve the warrant for the part-time animal control officer as presented and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Alamo.
Yeah, I have some questions. I've read this, and can you just tell me what this means? Because it looks like if someone finds a dog, I know this sounds silly, but the language is like, well, if we don't know who it is, we'll just kill it.
So
I know that's strong. I'm not trying to be sarcastic at all, but the language in here was
So that's what Master General Law
Noticeable.
says. That's literally what it says. You have 7 days to claim a dog or we can euthanize it. That's not our practice, but that's what MGL says we can do. This is simply, we're already in an agreement with the town of Westboro for our ACO services, so they host it. We're a subscriber, although we do have input in how this works. And in the last fiscal year, we had decided that we wanted to see a part-time animal control officer added so that they would cover vacations and sick days and times where we may have things going on that we may have. But all that this warrant does is basically take the Mass General Law and put it into a warrant for us to, or for you to vote and sign. So there's nothing in here that's beyond what Mass General Law says it is. But yeah, that's technically, the dog laws in Massachusetts are very antiquated. That's just kind of how it is. That's how it's written.
Not the only one who sees it as a little bit strongly worded letter. If you're a dog person, which I am.
Oh yeah, it is. I mean, if you go read the I think it's chapter 148, but I could be misremembering. But it's the dog hearing, select board's right to have a dog hearing. This is tame to me. They're very draconian practices with dogs and dogs running at large, and the practices that you can put in place. We don't here in Grafton, and we haven't. So I don't want anyone watching this to be concerned that if we find your dog and we don't hear from you in 7 days, we're going to put it down. Our ACO and our assistant ACO, our part-time ACO, are very good and very dedicated on doing everything they can to not have to put a dog down. You know, multiple shelters that we work with for adoption, multiple different ways that we can outreach and find other homes through the other ACO network. So we have a good system. This is just based on the language that's in the Mass General Law. So,
Okay, thank you.
where's your dog?
Sleeping 23 and a half hours a day.
Yeah, mine too. Mine too.
Well, I'm not even exaggerating.
Any more discussion?
She's fine.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have a contract with Teagan Bonds for the dam at Fisherville Pond.
Yeah, tie and bond.
Tie
Oh, you're back?
I'm back.
It's-
Yes,
it's-
just answer any questions.
It's fine. Just vote it. No, it's pretty boilerplate. This is the project that we've already discussed, that we entered into with Fisherville Mill LLC or Redevelopment LLC or Corp, whatever it is, to get a study undertaken to look at the dam and the impoundment and the work that is needed to both clean it and shore it up.
Yep, pretty much. Yep. So we got a grant from EEA for $187,500 for this work. The town's contribution will be $17,500 in staff time. So it's no dollars for the town. It's just my hours. Fisherville Redevelopment Corporation will be shoring up the remainder of the match and the rest of the financing that's involved. This is a pretty high priority project. The dam is a high hazard dam. It's in very poor condition. The phase 1 inspection report is outdated. We need a phase 2 done. And then they also need to do what's called chapter 253 permitting and design documents. So we need a firm like Tie and Bond to handle that and getting all of that submitted so that they can bring the dam into compliance. The goal is to tee up with the work that's done here with this grant is to tee up for a grant to actually implement the suggestions from Tie and Bond. So and I will not be getting involved in that. But I know that's the Fisherville redevelopment's long-term goal. So what we can do, this is if the dam were to, God forbid, anything would happen, there's significant impacts to life and property downstream, and we want to make sure we're staying on top of it. So
it took a turn.
We went from
yeah,
dogs to
we're getting
worse.
very more. I know we're getting more morbid. There's
It's all fine. It's all
yes.
fine.
Anyone
It's just
listening,
fun to study. We got a
it's
grant.
okay, but we just got to study it and make sure.
Step 1.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley?
I move the board vote to approve and sign the contract with Tie and Bond for the dam at Fisherville Pond.
Second.
All right, motion and a
Sorry.
second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thanks you all.
Fiona.
Thanks,
so much,
Fiona.
Good night.
Fiona, you going home?
Yeah, I'm going home now.
Good.
Yeah, I got quite the drive and should be fun.
All right, next up we have select board reports. Mr. Jefferson, come on in.
I'd love to. So I attended the Senior Center's open house back on April 26th. And I just wanted to thank the Senior Center staff and all their volunteers for their hard work, which was obvious in how many people were there. smiling and having a good time. It was the gym and the bowl locker room were packed. They had a bingo game that you could partake in when you first got there for hitting the different stations, which in turn, every time you get a bingo, you get a raffle ticket that you could enter into one of the baskets that had been donated. Captain Colleen was there from the fire department giving home safety inspection tips and offering that free service that the fire department does. You could hear about their programs. They had Fogey was there. The food bank, healthcare options. They were teaching people pitch, pinochle, mahjong. I did a senior aerobics set with Michelle for 15 minutes. Laura was by me.
I heard that was pretty hardcore.
Yeah, I was glowing by the end of it. She fared much better, and in
Define
heels.
glowing.
I have it on film.
I have a little schwitz going, you know. Yeah, if you do go to the senior center page and browse through some of those, you can see the blue Cape Cod hoodie off on the side. Catch me embarrassing myself. And then the only other thing I wanted to shout out was thank Frank and Mr. Alamo for the and Mr. Broussard for stopping by on the tour.
I wasn't invited.
No, you weren't, but you somehow got there anyway.
I did. I was coming through and I was like, I think that's Andy's car.
Yeah, it was just great to talk through what they had done, not to rehash it, see the improvements that have come up and plan for the future of that building. So, thank you.
Great stuff. Yeah. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Meek?
I just want to update everybody on the renovations at Station 2, Fire Station 2.
Sure.
HVAC is complete, and the kitchen is being redone with new cabinets. The new cabinets are in, countertops are going in tomorrow. New appliances, and the bathroom we're creating a handicap bathroom with a new shower. All the underground plumbing's done, and we'll be building walls tomorrow in the bathroom and installing sheetrock and tile, and then all new electrical in the station. And work at Station 3 will start in July.
Fantastic.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of things.
Yeah, sure.
We had the Grafton Sustainability Committee, Sustainable Grafton, I'm sorry, we've changed our name, so I can't, but anyways, we had a successful Earth Day event on 4/20. The weather wasn't great, but we decided to go ahead with it. We had about, 15 or 17 vendors, gentlemen from Hingham, people from out of our, not just our town, but outside of our town that came to our town, so that was good. And we're already planning for next year. We might have a rain location, but I want to thank the Sustainable Grafton Committee, and we're continuing to move forward with various initiatives. I attended the Willard Clock open house where they announced the $15 million matching grant. They're looking for $3 million to make that work, but it was a great afternoon with music and like Rushford Sons, they were there, and just a really great facility. If you haven't been over there, it's a little gem, and I think that with this money potentially coming in, it will really put that more on the map. I also attended the 10-year anniversary of the Country Store, so congratulations to Carol on that. And then also the Historical Society annual dinner where longtime Grafton resident Mike Goulet was honored the other evening, so that was great. Thanks.
Good stuff. All right, next up we have the TA update.
Yep. We'll keep it brief. There's not a lot of movement since the last time we talked. Everything is pretty much tied up in either design or pre-bidding work, with the exception of the cupola. Cupola is well underway. And just so that everyone has this on our radar, it's projected to finish up in August. So it won't be, it's not a super quick project, but they are there, really getting it done. We're still in the OPM contracting phase for the rec, so we're just doing all the legal stuff behind the scenes. And then once that OPM contract is signed, then we go on to the next step, which should be the architect. Norcross Park Playground, if you haven't been by, you should definitely check it out. It looks fantastic. It's a really cool structure. There's potential that the rubberized surface is poured tomorrow. depending on weather conditions and so on and so forth, but definitely looking like sometime in the next week. And then we'll do the wood chips on the other side. There's a fence that is on order, but is just turning out to be harder to get actually delivered.
What kind of fence is it?
On the back between the abutters property and
Is it
ours.
like a
It's
white
just
fence?
yeah, it's just a white vinyl
Got it.
fence. But it gives some privacy for the people.
Yeah, no, it looks really weird with it just like open now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and actually, shout out to Paul Canoyer because he's the one that called me up and said, this looks weird now.
It does.
We should probably
It's
think about adding a fence to this project.
Awesome.
Which, he took the lead and then got it back ordered. So, thanks, kinda, to Paul. No, no. So when that goes in, that'll be nice too. That'll be a nice addition. So yeah, that's going to be a great addition. So just some kind of back of the envelope stuff like I generally keep on here. 17 and 27, and I believe they're at the Conservation Commission tonight. 5 Millennium is also at the Conservation Commission tonight. Library flood. So we had the snafu with the carpet. We've worked all of that out. We have a carpet meeting at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, so we will finalize that, and then next week we should be off to the races. We have millwork and everything else, and I think we're in a good place again. UPS, they're still moving through the process. I don't have an update on when the public outreach will happen, but hope to by your next meeting.
Do you know where those troughs are going?
I know. I saw it while I was reading it, Andy, and I
thought
was
it
like,
was
you know what?
true.
If anybody calls me out publicly, it's going to be Andy Jefferson. So, anyways, 124 Westboro Road. We're still waiting on permitting for that. 14 snow. You all know the EOHLC walkthrough. We're continuing negotiations with Grafton Police. Hopefully, we make some progress there shortly. We finalized the energy aggregation contract negotiations. So the rates will be going up. I will have a presentation for you at the next meeting. But I will also show you a graph that Grafton did really well in the last turbulent round of energy pricing. We locked in about 2 weeks before the market went all haywire. So when people were up at 22 to 26 cents a kilowatt hour, we were at 10.8 the whole time. So market being what it is, it's not as good as we did last time, but we also added some more renewable energy into our package, just to make Grafton a little bit greener. So that's a cool project. And lastly, we've just been working on town meeting feverishly. Really, in the last 2 weeks we really put our nose to the grindstone. So William's been doing the lion's share of that, along with Amber, and they've really been putting together a nice package that I think that town meeting is gonna like. Last kind of thing on that, I just want to make sure everyone's aware. We were able to secure the ASL interpreters. They should be on the left of the stage, from stage left, and so that we'll also have some kind of a block there. One of the things it seems intuitive, but I never really thought of, is that when we call people up on the stage, they a lot of times enter from the left, and it is rude to walk in front of a sign language interpreter, which makes perfect sense once you hear it out loud.
Yeah.
It's not something I ever thought of.
Right.
So we're gonna block that entrance, and just anyone that needs to come up to the stage to present is gonna come from stage right. Minor thing, but it was something I thought was pretty interesting. And that's all I've got for right now.
All right, very good. Thanks for the update. Appreciate it. Next up, we have correspondence. Is there anything anybody want to bring up for correspondence? Mr. Jefferson, come on.
Couple things. I did want to highlight the shout out that Cindy got from Chuck Chalupka. We are kept in the loop on a lot of her replies to residents. She is always incredibly helpful and professional, and a treasure to that office. Enjoy working with her as frequently as we do. We also received the best kind of correspondence you can from Miss Feeney, who is deeply appreciative of the inclusive services that have come to fruition in the rec department. I probably should have said something sooner while Adam was here, address him in person. I know it was something that the rec team had begun to focus on, expanding those services prior to Adam starting, and it can be a lengthy process that is further hindered by municipal constraints and what we have at our disposal. But to get an email from a resident explaining how life-changing this is, not just for her child, but for their family, these are the things that we put in the hard work for. So huge thank you to Grafton Rec for all their work townwide and the respect that they deserve for such great things. Sorry. And one on a more serious note, though, we did receive an email with the 5-year school projection presentation from School Committee Chair Laura Offen. You had mentioned, I think, to us, or at least to FinCom, catching us up on some discussions after town meeting. I just didn't know if you had a rough idea as to when, is that like an early June conversation? When do you think we could?
I think it's either late June, early July would be my guess.
Okay.
But it also takes the school department. We got to align ourselves.
Right.
I would assume that part of this conversation is going to include the TRICOM, and it might be kind of the appropriate time to get that back on track. To have more frequent conversations and report back out, because there's going to be some real building blocks that need to fall into place while we figure out fiscal 26.
Yep. Okay. Makes sense. Anything else on correspondence? All right, we have some resignations.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to acknowledge and accept the resignations of Jean Avery, Kevin Brown, and Nancy Picconi as election workers.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, we have public comments. Do we have any online?
There was no public comment online.
Mr. Robbins,
you're
do you
killing
have any
me
public
tonight.
comments?
If you want me to comment on something, I can come up with something, but
I don't.
No. Thank you, Matt. Thank you,
You
Mr.
said
Chair.
it before I did.
you want me to comment.
Celtics are on.
Okay, Celtics are on. Geez.
Celtics won.
All right, next
Already?
up, we have meeting
Yeah.
minutes. Go for it.
Celtics beat Cavaliers 120-95.
Oh, thank
Wow.
you. Ah, bummer.
All right,
Missed it. Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes from March 26th, April 2nd, and April 16th of 2024 as written.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Foley.
move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thanks. We are adjourned.